Hello and welcome to Marvel Vision, a Marvel Studios TV show podcast brought to you by Cinema Sangha. My name is Devin Fracci. I am one of the hosts of the program. Joining me as he traditionally does.
My name is Derek Fracci, and I've invented a pill that gives ex-girlfriends worms.
Your camera's doing that thing.
Your camera's doing that thing. How do you like that?
Before we came on, I asked you if I had beard dandruff all over me because I just got a new beard wash, and I'm like really interested in doing something with my beard. You know what I mean? Not just like letting it grow and just sit there, like actually trying to make it look nice. Yeah. And so I bought this beard wash, and it smells great, and it does make my beard soft, but it's also giving me beard dandruff, and that feels like something it should not be doing. It does feels like the wrong fucking thing.
What I mean, it might be that like whatever you bought has like conditioner in it, which then like maybe loosens up the dead skin underneath. I don't know
what it is. I was just using shampoo.
Yeah.
Back in the day. I had a pretty bad beard dandruff outbreak a few years ago, and I actually bought Head and Shoulders just for my beard. But beard dandruff is so embarrassing because you don't even notice it because it's hitting your upper chest in a place that's not inside your field of vision. So it's sort of, I mean, I guess regular dandruff's like that too because it's your shoulders that it's hitting. Yeah. But man, this makes you look like you're just dirty and like you don't know how to eat properly. That's like what it looks like. That's how I look when I go to the movies and I eat popcorn like an animal. And then I leave the movie and I go, holy shit, my whole front is covered in popcorn crumbs.
Anytime I'm leaving the movies, the first thing I do when I stand up, I go,
you got
wiping my shirt like crazy.
You got to. It's the only fucking solution.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I feel it on the beard dandruff thing. It happens and it's very annoying. It's very exhausting.
And 95% of my wardrobe is black. So like it's particularly bad in that situation. You know, it just really stands out.
Like I don't have to worry so much about like head dandruff because I shave my head.
No hair, yeah.
But the beard, it can be annoying.
I don't have head dandruff. It's just the beard. It's just from the beard.
Well, I use head and shoulders
on your beard,
on my beard, and and on my head as well. I mean, I do my head as well.
You wash your head?
Yeah.
With shampoo?
Yeah.
Why?
Because I don't shave it like Lex Luthor bald. You know, I have like a thin layer of hair. So, it's good to keep it clean. And I use Head and Shoulders because like the ads used to say, but you don't have dandruff. And you go, I know. Remember those ads?
Yes, I do. I do remember those
Stiller Show sketch? For that, like making fun of that, where it's the guy, they're at like a farmer's market, him and his buddy, and the guy is like flirting with this girl, and I think the guy was Odenkirk, and the girl was Garofalo, and Ben Stiller is doing like the annoying friend dandruff commercial thing, where he's like, oh, I see you're buying carrots, and he'll jump in and be like, she's buying carrots, you're getting dandruff, and like he jumps away. She's like, what's wrong with your friend? And he's like, oh, he thinks he lives in a dandruff commercial. It made me laugh so. I love that sketch.
Oh man. So you watched Sinners this week?
I watched 3 movies this week.
Oh, what did you say?
I saw Sinners, Companion, and Nosferatu.
Wow, big week. I like all of those films.
Love Sinners. Absolutely love Sinners. I think I would like Companion more if I didn't know the twist.
Yes, I agree that it's structured that you're not supposed to know the twist.
Yeah,
and I wouldn't mind. Good. Yeah, I wouldn't mind if it was because like him calling her beep boop and stuff like that. And I don't feel bad saying this because it's in the trailers. Like they just gave it out in the trailers. So but the movie is not structured. It is 100% structured that you're supposed to be surprised when that's revealed. And it takes a minute to reveal. So it isn't like you're like sitting through the whole movie.
I mean, it's like 30 minutes in before it happens.
And you're sitting there going, wait, isn't this the deal? Like, and then finally, yes, it is.
Yeah. Like it's definitely one of those things when I was watching it and I was like, then it happens. I was like, man, I wish I didn't know because then I would watch this again in that first 30 minutes. They're definitely dropping clues and it would have been fun to pick up on those things.
Right.
But I already knew. So I was already picking up on those things.
Right.
So that's a bummer. But I did enjoy it. I thought it was a really good movie. Really well done. And then Nosferatu, beautiful looking movie. Did not like it.
Oh, it's maybe my favorite movie of last year.
Yeah.
I bought it on Blu-ray. I never buy anything on Blu-ray anymore. I bought it on Blu-ray because it has director's cut and it has commentary. And I haven't listened or watched that yet, but like I know I'm going to.
Is director's cut the same as the version on Peacock that is 4 extra minutes?
That would be it, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So I fucking adore that movie. I just think it is so excellent. And
I mean, I understand why people like it. No doubt about it. It's just not my bag.
what's not your bag about it?
I feel like the acting is very stilted, and it's definitely on purpose because everyone's doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like at first I was like, wow, Lily Rose Depp, maybe she's not a very good actor, and then I was like, well, I know everybody else in this movie is a good actor, and they're all doing that too.
It's mannered. The word you're looking for is mannered in this case. It's mannered acting. As a stilted is, I think, mannered. Stilted gives off the sense that it's not on purpose. Mannered is a way of kind of saying that it is on purpose.
Okay. All right. Yeah. All right. Sure. Yeah. And so there's that, and then it's the same problem I have with the basic Dracula story in general. Of like, I don't think this guy would be that hard to beat. It doesn't seem that difficult. You know, like in the Coppola one, he's turning into like a wolf and stuff. I'm like, all right, that's a little tougher. But like with this, they're like, well, you just gotta stab him. I'm like, all right, well, go stab him. What are you doing?
I mean, they do go do that. It's just a matter of like understanding what they do. They go stab him. It doesn't work. They don't find him, but they go to do that. Like that is like their plan. But yeah,
and then like Renfield didn't have anything to do in the movie. I don't know what he's doing in there. He just like shows up for like a little bit. He's like, oh, things are gonna get bad. And then I know he's not called Renfield in this. He's whatever,
right?
But he's Renfield. You know,
I liked that character. I liked it. I liked the idea that it gives a good example of what Count Orlok's powers are. You can kind of see it, you know, because he's playing with Lily Rose Depp's mind.
Yeah.
But that really gets you across like how much he can do.
I really appreciated in the scene when Renfield's in his cell.
Yeah.
And he's got the dead rats around him.
Yeah.
And he's got the pigeon. And the pigeon's clearly like a living pigeon. And then he lowers it off camera and comes back up and bites its head off. And it's like, oh, that's a good Texas switch on a pigeon right there.
That's really history's first pigeon Texas switch.
It might well be.
I loved it. I was disappointed that Dracula's dick wasn't in it more because people made such a big deal out of his dick.
Yeah.
But you know, what are you going to do? I wanted to see more. I wanted to see more Orlok hog. I loved his design. His design is incredible. And what I love about it is that he looks like a guy who would have been born 400 years before the events of the movie. That's what's really great about it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like a lot of vampire movies have the characters keeping up to date and stuff like that. Sinners is one of those. I love the idea that maybe if you're a vampire, you're just trapped in the time period.
In that period. Yeah.
As an old man who still dresses like he's in his 20s, I get that. That's speaking to me. Yeah. That's vampirism I can understand.
Kind of like what we do in the shadows, right? They're all dressed very out of date. You know, and there's something else where that's part of the story. I can't remember what it was.
Sinners.
There were a couple of vampires who were.
There probably were. Yeah, I'm sure there were. Yeah. Sinners is a masterpiece.
Yes. Yeah.
Did you stick around for both post-credit scenes?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah. It was a hell of a movie. Yeah. An amazing movie. Like despite all the hype, it still
works. Like, it's the hype is not enough. Like, it's that good. And I'm finishing up my review right now, but one of the things that I talk about is that this is not elevated horror. This is like when the vampire carnage starts, it's just vampire. It's just like fucking like monster carnage. There's like splattering blood. There is like people.
I don't want to spoil anything, but there's a sequence with a one of the human women that during the vampire fight that is just like the craziest thing I've ever seen, where it just keeps cutting back to it. I'm like, that's still going on? Oh my God. It's like, I loved it. And then everyone's talked about the musical sequence.
Oh God.
On paper, I would imagine if I was like an executive at Warner Brothers.
If I told you about that, you would have been like, that sounds like shit. If I had told you that on the phone.
On paper, you'd be like, this is a terrible idea. And then when you watch it, it's like, this is the most genius filmmaking I've ever seen. Like, it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
It's incredible. It's such a big swing, and he fucking hits it. He hits it out the park with that. I've seen so many responses like this. When I watched the scene, I watched it Friday afternoon, and I was really worried about the discourse around that scene. People don't like surrealism.
Yeah,
and that scene has a healthy dose of surrealism. and they take everything very literally often. And I love that people are responding to it. That they're not going, "What am I supposed to believe that this is happening?" I'm like, no, that's not happening. We're experiencing music on a cosmic level. Like that's the deal here. Like,
which is covered in the opening, right? Like,
he establishes the concept that, like, but it's just such a good movie, and it's so well acted. Delroy Lindo is amazing in this movie.
Oh my god! Like, everyone rightfully is talking about the kid, right? The guitar playing kid. He's unbelievable in this movie.
He learned how to play guitar.
Really?
For this movie, yeah.
I am shocked by that because he is
good.
Great.
Yeah, he is good.
He is great. Yeah. And everyone rightfully is talking about him like, wow, this kid's quite the find. But like, I walked out of the movie, I was like, Delroy Lindo, just give the man an Oscar. Like, my God, he's amazing in this movie.
He is also having the time of his life in this movie.
He's having a blast and a half.
Yeah. That's the thing. I think when the discussion makes it sound like this is like a very serious, it is a serious movie, but Coogler is such a master filmmaker that he has all the tones in this movie. Yes. There is comedy in this movie, and it is funny comedy.
I am positive, and I wish I could for 2 seconds talk to Ryan Coogler, because I am positive that there is a Better Off Dead reference in this movie.
I would not be surprised.
Where one guy says to another guy's like, "Where's my $2?" And I was like, "Oh, that's got to be a Better Off Dead reference," because everything else in this movie they're talking about like 50 cents at the most.
Yeah, that could be. Could be. There's a lot. Apparently, there's a lot of homages in this. I mean, obviously, there's a Thing homage that's pretty, I think, obvious. Yeah. But it turns out that one of the biggest influences on this movie was Puss in Boots: The Final Wish.
Really?
He went on a podcast and said that it really inspired him. That there's like a certain scene in that movie that like really inspired how he filmed the head vampire.
Wow.
So now I got to go watch fucking Puss in Boots.
I remember when that movie came out, I remember a lot of reviews of it being like, this movie is crazy good. Yeah. And does some very interesting stuff with animation.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, maybe I'll check it out. And then I forgot all about it.
Well, now it's back in your attention, and maybe you got to be checking it out. Yeah.
You have to go on I don't know if it's on Paramount Plus or Peacock, but I'm sure it's on one of those two.
One of those two.
Yeah. So I'll have to check that. And also the villain.
I think it's on Peacock.
Is it? I don't know.
I mean, it's a Universal movie, I think, isn't it? Isn't it part of the Shrek universe?
Yeah, I guess it is, right? Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. But
I'm pretty sure it's a Shrek spinoff, yeah.
It is a Shrek spinoff, but I don't know who makes Shrek.
I mean, it's Universal, because you go to Universal Studios and they have Shrek shit everywhere.
Well, I mean, you go to to Universal City Walk, they got the giant Hulk thing there. They don't have Hulk anymore.
There's no Hulk thing there.
It's not there anymore? At City Walk?
You talking about King Kong?
No, I'm talking about Hulk. At City Walk, not at Universal Studios. At City
I know. There's a King Kong hanging on the side of a building at City Walk.
Oh, there used to be a Hulk outside the theater. Like,
oh no, that's the kind of thing they move away. Yeah, that's just like that was a temporary thing. Okay. No, they have like rides and stuff based on Shrek, so I'm pretty convinced that means they own it. They're not just licensing it, because you don't want to build a whole fucking ride if you're just licensing.
Yeah. But the villain in Sinners, I don't want to give anything away, so I won't dig deep into it. But I walked out of the movie, I was like, why did he choose this background for the villain? And I read interviews with Coogler, and he thought about it a lot. He really put a lot of thought into that villain and what the villain represents. Yeah. And the music of the villain represents. I was like, wow, he like really dug in deep. And then I saw people online complaining like, oh, it's fine to turn this group into evil. It's like, you're missing the point of the whole movie. Like, it's definitively in the movie. Yeah. It's not hidden away that the guy is, you're supposed to relate to him in many ways. But
the thing is also, like, in terms of, it's a great movie about music. And in terms of that, the collision of blues and of Irish folk music created both country and then eventually rock and roll. Yeah. So like that is a big thematic element to that. He is portraying these two things colliding. Yeah. And that's part of what's happening. So, but yeah, it's Irish music and the blues. That is,
I was trying to skirt around and you just revealed it.
I don't think I don't think that's crazy. That's like a super thematic element of the movie.
Yeah, but still.
I don't think that the guy's Irish is that. He's introduced burning in the sun, so I feel like you know that he's the vampire.
No, not that. But I think the reveal that he's Irish is something that comes down the line, and then like his whole stance and when talking to everybody is very interesting.
It's really funny because in that movie, there's a scene where some white people come up and begin singing like a bluegrassy like song, and my audience burst into laughter. But the thing is that I don't think that's what Coogler's intention was, because he talks. I heard him do an interview where he talks about the idea that genre in music is an invention of racism. And it's 100% true, because you could play the same song if you were white, that would become hillbilly music, and if you were black, that would be race music.
Yeah,
and then those eventually turn into urban and country and rock, and that really is. But they were all playing the same stuff.
I think my theater too also laughed at that point.
I mean, it's a little bit funny, like, but
it's funny because it comes right after the big musical sequence.
Yeah,
so it's like, here's this giant sequence that is amazing. And now these three guys come up with banjos and they're like, and they're like dancing in unison.
Right.
And it's definitely a little bit goofy, but instantly, like as they're playing, I can't remember if it's Michael B. Jordan or somebody else that's there. It's like, these guys are really good.
Yeah.
And I think he's trying to make it clear, like, no, this is not a joke.
Right. And it's funny because, spoilers, they're vampires trying to get in the building. So like, they're like going like they're like, hey guys, hey, let's all sing a song together.
We got a lot of money to spend.
Yeah. So that's, I think, a big piece of it too. But anyway, it's like, if you have not seen this movie yet, you got to go see this movie. It is. I don't know if he's going to show up on the actual show. It is easily going to be one of the best movies of the year. I mean, it might be the best movie of the year. It's just because it's so complex in terms of not just like story, but it's the full package. You get everything. You get musical numbers, you get horror, you get comedy, you get romance, you get this is what movies are supposed to be. You get all of it in this movie.
Yeah.
So
yeah. It is. I was blown away by it. I was absolutely blown away by it.
Yeah,
I loved it.
So, all right. So you still haven't seen Warfare?
No.
You got to go see Warfare.
Well, I'll get around to it.
You gotta see it in the big screen, though. That's the thing I'm telling you. I told you this last week. I'm telling you again. It's a big screen picture. I don't know if it's going to have the same impact at home. I honestly don't.
Well, you know my stance on that kind of thing. So.
I do.
But if the movie doesn't work at home, the story's not that good.
The movie is designed to be overwhelming, and I just think you can't do that at home. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like sometimes people make statues that are giant, and the whole premise of a giant statue is that it's overwhelmingly large. You're supposed to be in awe of the size of the thing, so you can't put that statue in your house. But it doesn't mean it's lesser statuary. And I think that the story is very basic. It's a true story. It's very basic, sort of simple if we were to just talk about it. But it is that overwhelming sound and stuff that really because that puts you in the scene. So you're really in the scene. So anyway, then you know me. I'm always trying to get the theatrical experience.
You know who hates the theatrical experience?
Who? Which
David
buddy?
No,
David Cronenberg. Yeah, I saw. Yeah, that's old. He's been saying that for a long time.
Yep. I'm looking forward to all the film nerds getting angry at him.
They already are.
He's like, you can watch. I forgot what movie he said. He
said, I watched Lawrence Arabia on my
watch, and I can see every single camel.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's because he's a guy who has to struggle to get his movies released. And so he understands something different than some of the folks who all their movies go to the theaters, is that, you know what, like, I have to make a movie that people can watch. I have to meet people where they are. Is sort of, I think, what his theory on this is. And so, obviously, I think Cronenberg would prefer to see a movie on the big screen.
Well, I mean, he also says, like, most theaters, the lighting's not good.
Yeah, it's not a good experience. Yeah,
the sound is off. Like,
So. But I think people are going to really come at him because I think people are not going to like his new movie.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it.
It was Slurm? What's it called?
Slurm, yes.
It's something like that,
It's about Slurm McKenzie. The party worm. Like the Shrouds.
The Shrouds.
And so David Cronenberg's wife died. And this is a movie about a guy whose wife died. And this is a guy who looks just like David Cronenberg and acts just like David Cronenberg in the movie. That was not Cronenberg's choice. That was what's his name's Vincent Cassel's choice, because he understood this is Cronenberg making a movie about himself. But in the movie, he creates technology that will let you. There's a screen on a person's gravestone where you can look at their body.
Okay.
And I have talked to people who found that an impossible hurdle to get past. They just didn't understand why people want to look at the rotting corpse of their loved one.
They used to do that though, didn't they? They used to have like, not everyone, but like it was not an uncommon thing to have like a window where you could look into the grave.
There are certain cultures where they dig people up every year.
Yes. Yeah. There's that as well.
Yeah. So it's just, we live in a different society when it comes to death. And so people can't understand that. I can tell you that as having lost somebody very intensely close to me, like as soon as I saw this in the movie, I was like, oh, I get this movie, because I have spent so many hours thinking about like, what does she look like now? What is going on in there? And feeling bad that I am not there with her. And that's what Cronenberg's whole thing is about. And it's really great, I think. And the other problem is that it's a movie about grief. And the thing about grief is that it's insane. And there's a lot of conspiracy thinking that comes up in grief, where not like conspiracy, although he makes a conspiracy, but like, it's like, could the doctors have done this instead? What if I had done this the day before? All that kind of stuff. That becomes a really big part of grief. And that's a big part of this movie. Of course, it's a Cronenberg movie, so it's a little more literal in this movie.
Sure.
But also it's not certain what's really literal. And I think people don't love that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But I think it's a great fucking movie. A great movie. Maybe you just have to have your wife die to really appreciate it. It's tough. It's a very limited audience.
Very select audience he's going for there.
Yeah. Sometimes just what you got to do. You got to micro target.
Yeah.
a few 100,000 widowers across America.
Hey, look,
this movie.
It worked for Woody Allen for like 30 years. Right? He was like, if you're a short, nebbish Jewish man, this movie's for you. And it worked. People kept going.
Oh, man. All right. We got any comical book news this week?
We do.
What we got?
Superman merchandise has started being revealed, including a toy pack from whoever's putting it out. I don't know, Kenner, whatever.
Sure.
Mattel, whoever. That is a collection, a multi-pack of characters titled Justice Gang Multi-Pack. Leading to the question, is the team in the movie called Justice Gang?
I would not be surprised if somebody calls them that.
Yeah.
I don't know if they call themselves that. And it is the main characters. It isn't like potentially like bad characters or whatever.
All this says is it's a pack of 3 characters. It doesn't say who.
I mean, you never know. I mean, it could be like clone Superman. It could be, what's her name? The one from the Engineer, and then some other character. Or it could be Green Lantern, Superman, and Hawkgirl. Or Metamorpho or whatever. But I guess we'll see. And I'm approaching this one with like a lot of like open-mindedness. So
yeah, it doesn't say in this article. Good job. Good job, article. Set photos of Avengers Doomsday have started leaking, including what looks like a crashed ship of some sort surrounded by destroyed statues.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone's wondering what it could be. I think it's a crash ship that landed somewhere around statues that broke afterwards.
I bet those statues are meaningful, though, most likely.
I'm sure they are. Yeah. But you can't, from the photos, one of them looks like a Greek god statue. So Who knows? But who knows? Some people are thinking it's the X Mansion. I don't think they would have statues of Greek gods there.
They're all just Charles Xavier, and he's got
it's just his head
running around. No, he's running around. He's got a big dick in every single one.
In every single one. There you go. That's what's going on. Jon Bernthal is doing interviews, I guess, for something. He's out there.
Yeah,
and
he's got a movie.
Yeah, and The Accountant too.
Yeah, that's right.
And talking about his upcoming Punisher special presentation, he said, some of the best people we have in this country have worn the Punisher skull on their body armor, which is essentially Jon Bernthal trying to make me not like him.
I mean, we'll get to it when we talk about the episode, but I think this episode whiffs his speech to the cops.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty significant way.
Yeah.
And I would not be surprised if the original version that he didn't want to do had something much closer to the version in the comics.
Yeah.
I would not, because he just this version is this really bad emo thing. Like, you think you know my pain. Like, who gives a
It's the
shit,
same thing
dude?
he says every time somebody like disagrees with him.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I think they really whiffed it. And I suspect that was because of him, because he had not wanted to come back, finish shooting, because he didn't like where it was going.
Yeah.
So, because obviously that was built in, like, you know what I mean? Like, that stuff had been building the whole season, even in the old version. That had been the deal.
Yeah.
So
we'll see. We'll discuss it a bit. The teaser trailer for Sandman season 2 was released.
Did they take Neil Gaiman's name off of it totally?
I don't know.
There must be some kind of contractual element that he's got to have his name on it somewhere.
I'm sure. Unless they just didn't put any names on it.
They canceled that show and they did an amazing press release about it.
Yes, where they're like, we always planned for it to be 2 seasons. Like, no,
we finished the story. And it's like, no, this season ends with Season of Mists, which is like the defining story that opens up the rest of the Sandman story, because Sandman gets the key to hell and then everybody wants to take him out. And it becomes such a huge thing. It is like fundamentally like Gaiman got the story together.
When they said that and they were like, oh, this is where we always plan to end it, I looked it up, and it, like, when the first season was coming out, they were like, we want to do 2 storylines in a season. So it would be like probably like 4 or 5 seasons.
Yeah.
And it's like,
yeah,
stop! Don't lie. Just be
this is a crazy place. If you're ending a show, this is a crazy place to end it, because it's just starting to take off.
Yeah, so they're splitting it up into 2 volumes. So
we get twice the discourse.
Yeah, twice the discourse. I don't understand that. You think they'd be like, it's out right now, just go watch it. Don't like. It just did not work out.
Listen, just treat this like Electric State. Just ignore that it ever happened. Just move along. Nothing to see here.
Yeah. I do wonder if now there's a part of like Warner Brothers were like, oh, we really made a good call not putting this on Max. It worked out. We got a Superman behind the scenes video for Superman Day that showed off some stuff and some people talking about Superman, and we got our first good look at Metamorpho.
Mm-hmm. It's a good look. He looks good.
He looks awesome.
Yeah, it's real good.
Love it.
Cool. I have a problem with this feature though.
Yeah.
Is that we continue to not see Superman smiling on, like, in the movie. We see him smiling behind set, smiling, but we don't see, there's not a shot from the movie that's included here that he's smiling.
Yeah.
And I don't think that he's not smiling the whole movie. I'm sure he is smiling in this movie, but it seems insane to me to not include a fucking shot of Superman smiling.
Yeah, it's real weird.
Like, are they afraid of the Snyder people? Are they afraid that people don't want a smiling Superman? Is that what the deal is?
I don't think so, because all of their press stuff is like, this movie's very hopeful and he's a kind and generous Superman and yada, yada, yada. Like, they're pushing all that stuff. So, like, I don't think they're afraid of it. I just don't understand. Like, maybe David Cornsweet has a weird smile.
No, I've seen him. You've seen him smile on the behind the scenes footage. He's got a great smile.
Yeah, no, I was trying to make it.
He's got a really charming smile, actually.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think it would help. I think it would help sell him as Superman, because I think he has a charming smile. He's got kind of a boyish face, but when he smiles, there's a warm paternal quality, which is, I think, what Superman needs.
Yeah.
Superman's your dad. That's the thing. He needs to be your dad.
Yeah. I don't know why they're doing that. It is very upsetting to me, and I'm really hoping whenever this next trailer comes out, he'll be smiling.
Yeah, hopefully
a little bit. I thought the trailer was going to come out this past week. I thought they would attach it to Sinners, but nope. I don't know.
That's because Sinners is rated R.
Yeah, but you put it online too, right? Like it's
no, I know, but I think that I wonder if that's like a very specific choice, because it's a rated R movie. You don't want to position your Superman. Like, if it ends up in front of that, that's fine. But there are trailers that get attached to movies that they have to play. There was one in front of Sinners. I can't remember what it was, because I saw it at the Vista, and they played a Looney Tunes cartoon, and then they played old trailers that were thematically linked to the movie, and including an old Pepsi ad that is about a white boy coming into a blues club where everybody's white and playing blues, like rocking out on the guitar to blues, using a Pepsi bottle as his whatchamacallit his
I
thing.
remember that commercial.
Yeah, no, I did too. As soon as it came out, I was like, oh my God, I've seen this. And so it's
it's in my brain now. Yeah.
It's a very appropriate commercial for this movie. But then there was one last thing. When they announced it, they said there's going to be a trailer that's attached to the beginning of the movie. And I can't remember what it is. But it was there.
I don't remember any of the trailers from before the movie.
Anyway, that's the thing, is I think they would want to attach the trailer to the movie, and I think that that may not just be how they want to market it with an R-rated movie. Yeah, that has a lot of cunnilingus in it.
Yeah, a lot more than I expected. Yeah, and then finally we did get a Fantastic Four trailer that revealed some stuff.
It ruled, by the way.
It's a great trailer. Really
it's a good fucking trailer. We finally see Reed stretch.
Yes,
it looks great.
Yeah, I mean, it's a quick shot, but it looks good.
It looks like Alex Ross to me.
Okay, yeah.
The way that Alex Ross draws Reed stretching, where Alex Ross draws Reed, he still has joints and stuff inside there. That he's not just made out of rubber. And that's sort of, there's still a shape to Reed, even as he's stretching. Now, obviously, like within the storytelling, you do whatever you need to do. But in the visual of it, I loved it. And I just thought that we finally have the premise of the movie now.
Yes.
And there's just a lot of really great stuff with the team, and just a lot of really good, it just looks really good. So I'm psyched. You know what? I know that everybody's been like, oh, Devin's a Marvel guy, therefore he's more excited for Fantastic Four than he is Superman. But I just think they're doing a better job of selling Fantastic Four than they are selling Superman. At least to me, not selling it to me at the very least.
Selling it to a Marvel guy, yeah, they're doing a better job.
No, I mean,
I don't disagree. I don't disagree.
They're really forwarding a lot of the elements that are like big, hopeful, and especially now as the world is so dark, there's like a real sense of like, oh, okay, this is a big, hopeful movie, like where everybody's like family and they're going to solve their problems together. Like that's really great. That's really refreshing, as opposed to here's the guy who gets the shippy out of him and then screams under the light. And again, like I know that that's not what the whole movie is. I understand what's happening in this scene.
I don't remember who somebody said. I think on Blue Sky, it might have been on Reddit. Somebody's like the tagline for Superman is "Look up." The trailer is just him laying on the ground. Like how about flies around and stuff? Like
it's just it's really strange. It's a very strange marketing campaign. But yeah, this Fantastic Four trailer is really good. And I am very psyched about this movie.
I will say, I agree. It looks really good. The costumes look great. I love their belts. I love that like the logo is all over them. Like things got it on the side of his leg and it's on the bottom of their boots and stuff like that. I really enjoyed that. The Silver Surfer does not look good. I imagine they're still working on it, but I think it's just an inherent problem when you have a character that's just all silver.
Well, if you look, she has that Marvel tactical thing going on. She's got lines on her.
Does she? I didn't notice.
Yeah, she has lines on her legs and stuff, and I'm sure they'll have more as the character is fully completed. Yeah. And I think that's on purpose because I don't know that there's a really strong way of rendering a totally silver person that isn't going to look phony as shit. Yeah. I mean, it should look weird because it's weird, but it looks phony is the thing. Yeah.
It looks like a toy is the problem.
Yeah. My only concern about the trailer is way that Pedro Pascal is playing Reed might require me to have some readjustment of my understanding of Reed.
Okay. What do you mean?
Well, he seems way friendlier than comic book Reed, who is a absent-minded scientist.
Yeah.
Like at his best, he's an absent-minded scientist. At his worst, he's kind of a cold, distancing workaholic.
Well, as a podcast I enjoy very much, Heroes for Hire, which is two Irish guys talking about comics, as whenever they bring up Reed Richards, as they put it, total bastard Reed Richards.
But it's quite clear that Pedro's playing him a lot more likable and a lot sweeter than he is in the comics traditionally. And so I'm a little bit trying to like make peace with that, but maybe we'll see in the movie that it isn't quite that. So I don't know.
I wouldn't be surprised based on what we saw in that trailer. The feeling I got was when there are cameras on, he's like, "Hey, how's it going, Mr. Wizard?" And then when they're off, he seemed much more serious.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that'll be a pretty good. That'd be a pretty good version of it. I think. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'd be okay with that.
yeah.
So,
But it was. I mean, it's a great trailer. It's
yeah.
like the shot of Galactus just walking down the street is just as sweet.
So good. It is so good.
Loved it. I mean, it's right out of Ghostbusters 2, and I loved it.
But that's the thing is that they just take a page from the kaiju thing, which is like you don't want to do like a zooming shot around his legs. Like just set the camera down and then just shoot it. Like that's the thing. And that was always the thing. I had a really great interview with oh man, you know what? Somebody was like, how come these guys couldn't remember Margaret Qualley's name without going to IMDb? I can't speak for Derek, but I'm 51 years old and I have been a lifetime of self-abuse. So the fact that I remember anything is shocking. But
I think I've proven many times I just don't care what these people's names are.
But I'm very bad with names. I'm very, very bad with names these days. And what's his name? Who directed John Carter, the Pixar guy?
Brad Bird.
Yeah, Brad. Was it Brad Bird? I think it's Brad Bird.
I don't think he directed John Carter though.
I think he did.
I thought his first live action movie was the George Clooney one.
The George Clooney one. Which one is that?
With the. Come on, man.
This is the worst podcast ever made.
The George Clooney one, where he's
Andrew Stanton
or whatever.
Andrew Stanton. You know what this is like? You know what us on this podcast is like? The one where Tom Hanks is by himself. Yes. He's by himself. Philadelphia? No, he's by himself.
I'm trying to think of what Tomorrowland.
Yeah, you're right. It's Andrew Stanton. Andrew Stanton directed John Carter. And I had a talk with him. I really like how they do the flying in John Carter. And we talked about the idea that his vision was like, put the camera, even though it's all CGI, put the camera where a camera would go if you were filming a flying scene. Yeah. What are you laughing at?
You made me think of a bit from 30 Rock where Tracy Jordan like gives up drinking or something. And he starts getting like smarter. Yeah. And at one point he's like, I finally understand the end of Sixth Sense. Those are the people that made the movie.
Yes. Those names of the people who made the movie. Yeah. No, it's one of the great ones.
I'm sorry.
My friends and I have been talking about how New York City Mayor Eric Adams, I think he's a tulpa created by Tracy Morgan because he's so clearly a Tracy Morgan character. It's insane.
I was thinking about this the other day, is a couple of years ago, Tina Fey and her writing partner created a show called Mr. Mayor, which was Ted Danson as the mayor of Los Angeles. And I enjoyed it. It was a good show. And then the other day I saw a picture of Mayor Adams wearing a T-shirt that was in Italian.
And he said it's Spanish.
Yeah. He's like, this is Spanish. And I was like, it's too bad they already did and they're doing a new show with Tracy Morgan. I was like, it's too bad they already did Mr. Mayor because this is the show.
Yeah.
Tracy Morgan becomes president or becomes mayor of Manhattan.
Even crazy.
If as a spinoff of 30 Rock, Tracy Jordan becomes mayor of Manhattan would work perfectly.
Yeah, no, that was the one that really made me convinced that the psychic energy of all of Tracy Morgan's characters had created a living being, a tulpa, as they're called in Tibetan culture. And they fought them on the X-Files too. Because that was, I was like, oh, this is clearly Italian. Like it doesn't even look like Spanish. I mean, they're both romance languages, but other than that, and he is like talking about how it's Spanish because he loves the Spanish immigrants. Like, Jesus Christ, is there anybody telling this guy anything?
New York has an amazing ability to choose the worst people as mayor.
There's
governor many times.
There's a really great Onion headline that keeps coming up. It says, Bill de Blasio says, not so easy to find a mayor who's not totally a piece of shit, is it?
Yeah, it's true.
Oh, man.
It really is amazing that New York just consistently is like, this guy's a moron. Let's go with him. Yeah. And then they're like, oh, he sucks. Who knew?
Is that all the news?
That's all I got.
Okay, we got letters.
We do.
What do we got?
Corbin Erdahl asks, it's a long question. I'm going to cut it down a bit. Did either of you read Peter Milligan's X-Force Ecstatics book when it was coming out in the early thousands? Did you enjoy it? And did its themes resonate at the time when it came out?
Well, last episode of the Bad Batch, I think I said that Dupe was my character I would most want to see pop up someplace. So yes, I did read Ecstatics, and I do think that it fundamentally resonated, but I also think it was very ahead of its time. So even
Yeah.
though it fundamentally resonated, the thing is that he was parodying celebrity culture and reality culture and all that shit.
But
And
at that time, it was really just like, you know, real world and road rules.
yeah,
Like
and yeah, and it was
reality
like
TV had not
Paris Hilton,
exploded.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and so, but the thing is that because his satire was so savage that it actually predicted the future.
Yeah.
And if you did ecstatics the way that he did it now, it would feel maybe even toothless a little bit.
Yeah.
But I really like that comic a lot. It never got enough attention. It never got, but I'm a big Milligan guy. I'm a huge
Yeah.
Milligan guy. His run on Shade the Changing Man is one of my favorite comic book
Amazing.
runs of all time.
Amazing.
So he was one of those
Kill
guys for
your
a
ex
long
or
time.
kill your boyfriend. That was a
Kill
great
Your
series.
Boyfriend. Yeah, he's one of those guys where he whatever had his name on it for years, I just bought.
Yeah.
Regardless of what it was. But yeah, I thought that Ecstatics was amazing, and I would love. I don't know if they've been doing trades. Like I don't know if there's any trades in print of it at this point.
They brought it back recently with like the same characters, right? For like a one shot or
They
something.
did something like that, and then the new X Force, which they've already canceled. No, the new X Factor, which they've already canceled, is basically Ecstatics again, where it's
Yeah.
Havoc leading the team, but they're all TikTok stars,
Yeah.
and that they're bankrolled by like a media company, and it's really good. I like it a lot, but they fucking canceled it, and they did one of those things like, well, we don't expect our comics to last more than a year. These are all short stories. I'm like,
That was I forgot what an artist recently went on a big thing about how Marvel does their stuff. And one of his things was like Marvel, every series they expect 5 issues and that's it.
yep,
And it's like, you know, he's like, how do you tell a story like that? Like you
no.
can't
Yeah, you're just telling a
tell a story.
miniseries at that point.
Yeah.
You're not actually doing a run. I mean, only the legacy characters get the runs. So
Yeah.
like, I mean, not just diarrhea, but also they get to have comics. Like Amazing Spider-Man gets runs. Like there's like
Yeah.
story arc after story arc. Avengers, somebody comes on and they sit on it for a few years. But yeah, a lot of the other titles, it's like 5, 7 and done. And
Yeah.
they don't make you understand that when the title begins.
No.
That's the
No.
thing. You just have to pick up that this is what their publishing platform is at this point.
Yeah.
And
And on the same note, I was watching an interview with Mark Waid and they asked him about his run on Doctor Strange. He was doing like Strange Academy, and I guess that lasted 5 issues. And they were like, "Did you have other plans for it?" He's like, "I had 3 other issues written for it, and 1.5 issues had been drawn. Like
wow,
we had no idea that they were just going to stop it at 5. Nobody told us that,
it's
you know."
crazy.
And you know, it was weird. He seemed pretty bummed out by it. And then he
It,
went on to like discuss how DC is more willing to give a book time
right.
to find an audience, like not a endless amount of time, but time to try and find an
But
audience.
Marvel's not even looking for the time to find an audience. That's the thing.
No,
It's almost essentially an editorial edict that they're going to end these books pretty quickly. That's like, I mean,
I mean, if the idea is 5 issues, you're canceling before the first issue comes out.
yeah, pretty much. That's the deal, and that happens to a lot of people. You'll hear them talk about it. Like we were finishing up issue 2, like finally, like ready to go to the printers, and we were like, oh, that's the last one,
Yeah,
and it's or no, not this last one, but like the one you just handed in is going to be the last one, and but that is, I think, their editorial policy. I don't think it's just like not giving it time. I think it's just their editorial policy, but they don't want to say that it's a miniseries because they probably have some kind of metrics that say miniseries don't sell as well.
yeah, yeah.
So
It's weird. I don't get it, but what are you gonna do?
it's crazy.
What you
They've
gonna
had a couple of
do?
good fucking books too, and they just did this to a bunch of really good books. They just keep doing this.
Yeah, yeah. But I also read Ecstatics, and I loved it. I loved Mr. Sensitive,
Yes.
whose catchphrase was "I can feel everything," and I loved him. He was a great character. Although he had another name too. I can't remember what it was though.
I don't know. I don't remember.
But it was Mr. Sensitive, and then something like the Feeler or something like that. I can't remember. Or emo boy, emo man, something
I
like
don't
that.
think emo was that big a thing. I mean, it was a big thing, but I don't think it meant the same thing that it did. Because the thing is that emo back then was really just emotional hardcore, which is pretty much mostly coming out of a couple of places like DC and a couple of places in the Midwest, and then some pop punk jerk offs took the name and they
Orphan.
ran with it.
Orphan was his other name.
So
yeah, Mr. Sensitive, great name, great character.
All right, what's our next letter?
Good question. Charles Villanueva asks, does Marvel Studios need a story group like Lucasfilm has? In my opinion, part of why the new phases are so lackluster is because the world building is so stunted. Uh, yeah, they used to have one and they got rid of it.
They were
Right?
bad.
They were bad.
There was the creative. It was the creative. Was that called the creative group or the creative? Anyway, they were very bad. They gave really bad notes. I have talked to Marvel directors about the very bad notes that they got from those guys. Those guys were not good. There was a couple of
Yeah,
comic guys on it technically, but it was all mostly like studio people,
yeah,
and it was like upper level studio people, like from like Disney and shit, and they just didn't understand it.
yeah. I think it was like Bendis and like one or two other Marvel writers, and then execs, right?
Yeah, and the notes that they gave were just the version of Ant-Man that made Edgar Wright quit was basically ghost written by one of those guys.
Okay.
So I don't think that the Lucasfilm story group. I think there's a lot of mythology about the story group
Yeah,
that I don't think is true. And I think if you watch the sequels, it's quite clear that Lucasfilm story group only has so much ability because if they had that ability, we would not have those three movies the way they are.
yeah.
Just wouldn't have happened. So, I mean, creative committee was what they were called. And so, I mean, technically, I wouldn't mind a little bit more tightness on the Marvel thing, a little bit more direction, maybe even. The thing is, I think that I. It's funny because we've all lived through the same events, but people don't ever think about how they impact this kind of thing. So, like the pandemic and the strike really fucked these whole last two phases up,
Yeah.
like very badly. Like it was very intense. And so, with that in mind, I think that there was a lot of problems on the production side. And also because, as we talked about before, they were forced to do a gazillion TV shows, and Feige was spread too thin, and yada yada yada. I don't know that I think that a committee would help with any of that. I think that what would help with that is not having a once in 100 years global pandemic, and then a strike that shuts down Hollywood for
I
6 months.
mean, I don't disagree, but I don't think the pandemic and the strike can be used as the reason why they were like, "Hey, let's do Captain America movie that is a sequel to a Hulk movie nobody likes." But also, I don't think a creative committee would fix that problem.
Well, I think the problem with Brave New World is that it's a movie that they moved forward on without ever having a solid idea, and so the
They
movie
did have a
changed
solid
so
idea.
many. The movies changed so many times, but
Right.
before they ended up going to film it and had to reshoot a whole bunch of it, they had three different versions of that
No,
movie.
no, but let me explain what I mean. Their solid idea was the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. That should
Yes,
have been the movie,
yes, agreed,
And then
agreed.
they
No,
were
I
like, "Well,
agree.
we already did the movie as a TV show.
Yeah.
What do we do now?"
No, I agree, and I think that was partially because they were being forced to do a bunch of fucking TV shows, and
Yes.
so they're like, "Well, we have this thing kicking around. We can turn this into a TV show."
Yeah.
So I think that's the thing. And I think also they took a bunch of really big swings in terms of like characters and stuff that were not sure things, and obviously that's how they began. But this time, those swings didn't always connect very well. And so
Yeah.
that really fucks up the world building too, because whatever you're establishing in those movies can maybe not be super important because nobody saw Eternals, right? So, like, with that in mind, how much Eternals lore, which could have been very important to the MCU moving forward, can you actually bring forward and not start getting complaints from people, which is the normal complaint about the MCU? Oh, I have to watch everything they've ever done to understand any of these movies. And so, on some level, it's like, okay, you didn't want to go see the Eternals, so I guess we're just going to like kind of move that out of the spotlight.
So we'll put part of that into the Captain America movie as well. The Captain America 4, it's going to be all the movies nobody really liked, and we're going to finish up those storylines here.
That's really what it was. It really wasn't
Yeah.
tying a couple of storylines up
Yeah.
and moving along.
If they had time, they would have had like the Marvels show up as well and be like, "Hey, we're all okay having lunch." Like, "Oh, okay, cool."
Yeah, because like the Celestial Island, man, they don't like Tiamat Island. They don't ever really explain it in any meaningful way in Captain America, and they just fucking sail past it.
Yep.
And I imagine that must be highly confusing for a regular moviegoer. Like, was a hand coming out of this island? What's going on?
Fighting over a giant man in the ocean?
Yes, really. You're right. They really did between the leader and Tiamat Island. They really were like, "Fuck it, let's just tie some things up. We can move on." They didn't tie up Arishem, who would have made a good big bad for one of the phases. But you know,
Yes, I still have hope. I still hope that they'll bring the Eternals back. Look, we had to wait 15 years to see the leader again.
we got the Abomination before we got the leader back.
Yeah, that's wild. That is wild. I was thinking about this the other day. It's kind of a bummer that Sam Rockwell is not in Thunderbolts. You know, I feel like he should be.
You never know who's going to show up in a movie.
I mean, I guess he could pop up for all I know. Yeah,
that's the kind of thing like where they might have him pop up and be uncredited in advance cameo or something like that. Yeah. Although we don't know, is he out of jail? We don't even know what his deal is.
But I'm saying like because what's her face is a government official. Right. If she was like using him to weaponize stuff, you know,
that may be part of the story.
I just want to see more Sam Rockwell. You know, I like him, and I liked him in Iron Man 2.
Somebody, you know, it's really funny. Somebody posted a picture of Walton Goggins in Ant-Man and the Wasp, and they were like, "This is Marvel. They just take great actors and they just blow them in these little roles." And it's like, my man, when Ant-Man and the Wasp came out, none of you heard of Walton Goggins. Like, that was for some of us very exciting to see Walton Goggins in this kind of a movie because we recognized this really great character actor that we liked. Yeah. And that at that time, he was not the guy that you make the main villain. He did not have that yet. Yeah. I mean, now he obviously does. You know what I mean?
Well, but it's the great curse of Marvel, I suppose. They have an actor who's really good that does have a fan base, and they put him in a role like Walton Goggins. And people are like, oh, they wasted him. Or they put him in a big role and they're like, great, now this is all they're going to be able to make for the next 10 years. And it's like, what do you want to do?
I just also think when Ant-Man and the Wasp came out, he didn't have that big fan base. He really just had like people who recognized him.
The show he was on that people like Justified, right?
He was in Justified. Yeah, that's the thing. He was a guy on, he wasn't even the main guy on Justified, right?
But fans of Justified loved him.
And that's a show that got canceled. So, I mean, to sort of put that in perspective, but yeah, I mean, people who also like character actors had seen Walton Goggins around and knew who Walton Goggins was. I was
I remember excited on Sons of Anarchy and being like, this guy's a good actor.
Yeah, I was so excited when he was put in that movie, but at the time it didn't feel crazy that he was in that role. It felt, okay, I guess that's what this guy's deal is. Now he's a lead. You know what I mean? He's becoming a lead, more or less. Yeah. And that's a different matter. But people always project backwards that with the status quo right now is always the status quo. And that's just not the case. So,
yeah.
All right. What's our last letter?
Our last letter is from Shane. And he says, what was it like? What was growing up in New York like? And that's his question.
That's the whole question?
He says, I grew up in suburban North Carolina or suburban Michigan. It was pretty much how you would expect. We would walk to friends' houses, bike ride to 7-Eleven, but that was about it. What was it like for you guys growing up in one of the biggest cities in the world? And he included a picture of himself from when he was a kid.
Do you want to go first or should I go first?
I'll go first. It's the only life I know, so it doesn't seem weird to me. But sometimes I'll tell stories to people and they'll be like, what? And I'll be like, yeah, like that's what we would do, you know, like, you know, you would just go into the city on like a Wednesday, right after school or whatever. And let's go to the city. And then you and your friends all from a Catholic school were walking around in your Catholic school uniforms in like the village, looking like fucking 14-year-old nerds thinking you're cool, but you're not cool, you know, and you do stuff like that, or you fucking hang out on rooftops and run around the streets and whatnot, you know, and get into havoc. Get mugged a couple of times.
I got mugged with a weed whacker one time.
Did you?
Yeah, it wasn't even on, but I was just such a dork that I was like, all right, here's my money.
There you go. I got mugged one time at a bus stop during a heat wave, and I argued with the guy. And I was drinking a Gatorade, and he just kept on like, just give me your money. Like, I'm not going to give you my money. I don't have enough money to give you. I have enough money for the bus that I'm taking, and that's it. He's like, just give me your money. And we're going back and forth. And I'm like, where this bus has to get here sooner or later. And then he's like, all right, let me get some of your Gatorade. And then we started sharing the Gatorade and discussing mugging.
I had a mugging experience. I had a few mugging experiences. One of my mugging experiences was they mugged me and I had a bag of comics that I had just bought. It was like Wednesday comic book day, or maybe it was Tuesday back then. And then they made fun of me for having comic books and they threw them on the floor. So it was like a mugging and a bullying all at once. It was very, very harsh.
I got mugged on the subway and they took my Walkman. And the guy took the Walkman and he put the headphones on and he looked back and went, Mr. Bungle. And he walked off the train. I was like, fuck, man.
At least he's got good taste, right? That's
like, well, it kind of made it worse. Like now he even gets like a tape he likes. Like, or I think it was a CD by that point. But yeah, you know.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we both got mugged a number of times. Although a lot of muggings in New York City are not what you see in the movies.
No.
A lot of times, the very most common way is, "Where's that money you owe me? Where's my $20?" There's that.
Where's that money you owe me? And also, let me see that.
Let me see that. Yeah, let me see that. Yeah. Is probably the most common mugging tactic is let me see that. Yeah. And I was always a victim of the "was that money you owe me?" because I was always such a dork that I think they recognized that I was easily bullied that way.
Yeah.
But so none of my muggings were particularly violent. Like I had a gun pulled and I had the weed whacker. And I was held once, but like never, like I didn't walk away with any scratches or bruises. You know what I mean? Like it was frightening, but it wasn't like that frightening.
I got once a guy grabs my Walkman. He grabbed my Walkman and jumped on a train, and I instinctively jumped on after him and grabbed him. And then his like 3 friends started beating on me. And I was just holding on to him and I was yelling, like, I just want my Walkman. And then one of his 3 friends stopped everybody. And he's like, what? And I was like, he's got my Walkman. And he turned to him and was like, give him back his Walkman. What are you doing? And he gave me back the Walkman.
That's such a good New York story. Such a good New York story. Yeah. Those friends had no idea. They were just defending their buddy.
Yeah, they just thought it was this black dude, this black kid, like roughly my age. We were both about 15, 16. So they thought it was just some Joey white boy grabbed their buddy.
Right.
And like, all right, we're going to beat the shit out of the Joey white boy. That's how this works out.
Yeah.
I don't blame him. I don't blame him at all.
But then also they're
like grabbing my Walkman. Like, that's a dick thing to do.
But that's the thing. And then when they found out that he stole your Walkman, they're like, oh, that's fucked up. You can't do that. That's not right. Yeah. I love that. I used to, as a kid growing up in New York City, there was a couple of things that I used to do. I used to go in. So when we say going into the city, we lived in the city. We had the same mayor and everything. But when you're living there, you say going into the city, you mean Manhattan. That's what that means. And so I would go into the city all the time. I would go to all these shops to buy T-shirts and Manic Panic hair dye. There was a magic shop that I used to go to, magic with a K, not magic with a rabbit in a hat, but like real magic. I bought a book there one time and summoned an angel, and Derek was fairly convinced that I was full of shit.
You were full of shit.
So
we've discussed this before, haven't we? That I figured out what happened.
We have. So I had this book that had summoning spells, and my friend and I we decided we didn't want to summon a demon. That seemed too dangerous, but we decided we wanted to summon an angel then, which probably also technically is stupid as shit. Like, you know what I mean? Like
this winged eye monster hanging out in your bedroom.
But also like he brings the wrath of God with him. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, I don't think an angel, because a summoning is an act of overpowering a supernatural being. I don't think that's going to make an angel happy, right?
Probably not.
And we've seen what they did to Sodom and Gomorrah. So we did this, and there was like a couple of like weird events we did it in the fucking stairwell of our apartment building. And there was like a couple of weird events in the moment.
Doing it in our bedroom.
No, I did it in the stairwell. Remember where you came down the stairs and it was that little weird
curve?
Yeah, that's where we did it.
Okay.
I did a bunch of stuff in the bedroom. I put like all kinds of sigils on the bedroom door.
Yeah, that's why I remember the sigils on the door. Yeah. And in my brain, I guess I combined it where it's like, oh, he did it in the bedroom, and then he put a sigil to keep the angel out of the bedroom.
Well, actually what happened is that when we did the thing, we had like a candle and stuff, and the candle went out, and we got a little freaked out, and then that night I put a sigil on the door because I was afraid that we had summoned something. And then that night there was the light that came into the room that you later on figured out was headlights.
Headlights. Yeah. Cause we lived at the top of a hill, and it was like literally the last night I was in that apartment. We were moving out. So like everything in the room is out. And I'm just like, usually if in our bedroom, when it was bedtime or whatever, the TV was on. We just always fell asleep with the TV on. So there's always some kind of light, but I'm laying there in the dark with like a mattress on the floor the night before I leave forever, and the room filled with light. And I was like, the fucking angel. and then I was like, I could hear the car. I was like, oh, freaking car
Oh,
turning
it's
the
a
corner
Buick.
coming up the
Yeah,
hill.
it's a
Yeah,
Buick.
that's all that was. Jeez. Yeah.
But yeah, New York City was a pretty great place to grow up.
Me and my friends used to go in the sewers all the time.
Yeah, we did a little bit of sewer exploring.
Yeah.
And
That's where we saw the goblins. We saw goblins in the sewer. We were very
nice.
excited. Yeah.
What were they?
To this day, I don't know. I'll never know. It was, well, I was 16, 17, and there was a blackout in Flushing. And me and my friends, Chris and Sean, were just walking around in the dark. And some guy was like, oh, keep out of the sewers. The goblins come out when it's dark. And we're like, now we got to go in the sewers. Right? Like, come on. So we went into the sewers, and I swear to God, we're walking around down there for like 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Nothing. There's nothing. And then we turn down like a path, and there's a guy standing at the end of the path. And we're like, oh, hey, like crazy guy in the sewers like us. Let's keep away from him. And then I swear I don't know how this worked out. Someone stepped out from behind him that we couldn't see before. And then someone stepped out from behind that guy. And then someone stepped out from behind that guy, and we just booked. We ran. We were like, whoa. That's and amazing. So we were like, it's goblins. There's goblins in the sewers.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I mean, probably was just mole people, but that's amazing.
Yeah.
We had in New York City, there were mole people that really existed. There were homeless people that made homes in abandoned subway stations and in the sewers. Yeah.
There's what's the name of it? Dark Days? Is that the documentary?
I think that's the name of the documentary.
Yeah. Amazing documentary about that.
Yeah. But also New York City was a really good place for me to do drugs when I was young. Like it's a wild place to trip acid. Had some pretty crazy experiences. Also a really great place to get really drunk and have to take the train home because the bars are open until 4 a.m. So you can really be out late. And one time I was living with our grandparents and I passed out on the train home and I vomited all over myself. And I vomited so hard that I burst a blood vessel in my nose. So I'm vomiting and there's blood pouring down me. And I come to and it's the morning. And people are the train has made it to the end of the line, has turned back around, back towards the city. And people are getting on to go for their morning commute. And they see me sitting there covered in puke and blood. And they just go to the next fucking car. I was that guy. There's always, you always run into that guy on the subway every now and again. Like you walk into the car and it just smells like nothing but shit. And you cannot sit on that. You cannot stay on that fucking car. There are people that will stay on that car because it's now all space. But like, you're going to smell like shit all day, bro.
Yeah.
And so people were avoiding me. I got to be that guy. But the best part of that story is I came home and our grandfather was in the front yard, like watering the front yard and like watering the sidewalk, And it's a little front yard. It's like, it's a little brick brownstone-y place that they had. And I walk up to him covered in vomit and blood. And he goes, "Good morning." And I said, "Good morning." And I went inside and went to bed.
That's amazing.
That was after a night we were at this place called the Cherry Tavern downtown, and the bartender took heroin and nodded out and just was gone. So we just helped ourselves to whatever we wanted.
There you go.
Yeah.
The first time I ever drank, I was 15. I believe I was 15. It was however old I was when The Crow came out.
Okay.
Because it was the weekend The Crow came out, and I think you were living in New Paltz at the time.
Probably.
And Mom had gone to Ireland, so I was alone. And me and my buddy Chris were like, "Oh, we should go see The Crow." I'm like, "Cool, let's go see The Crow." And then we come out of The Crow, and he's like, "We should do something because I can just call my parents and say I'm crashing at your place, and we can just do whatever we want." I was like, "Yeah, this is a great idea." Again, we're fucking nerdy little kids. And he's like, "Yeah, it's a great idea." So we get on payphone calls his parents. He's like, "Oh, I'm going to stay at Derek's." Okay, cool. Boom. Hang up. Done. And then we're like, what are we going to do? And we walked around for a while trying to figure out what to do. And we ended up stopping. We went into a Irish bar in Queens and tried to get drinks, and they would not serve us. Because at 14, I looked 12.
Yeah, no, you look like a little tiny baby.
I looked like a child. Yeah. And he did not look much older than me. And the bartender was like, "That's just not going to work out, guys." But the bartender was like, "Look, there's a liquor store across the street. They'll sell to anybody. Just go there." And so we went there and we bought a 6-pack of Zima.
Ooh, Boy, oh boy, starting out strong.
Start off strong. And then we're just walking through the streets drinking Zima. And it's like 1 a.m, something like that. And we came across a rave. And we were like, you want to go to the rave? And both of us like, no, we're not cool enough for that. We're not going to the rave. But there was this girl sitting in the middle of the street. And we were like, something's wrong with that girl. And we went over and she was, I don't know what she was on, but she was just out. She was just sitting there out.
Uh-huh. She was probably on ketamine, yeah.
On something. So we pulled her away from the out of the street because sooner or later she was going to get hit by a car. And then her friend came up and was like, you got to help me. I've been trying to get somebody to help me. Nobody will help me. I'm trying to get her to the hospital. And so we carried her to a hospital 3 blocks away.
Wow.
And then sat in the waiting room for like a couple hours until like the sun was up. And then they finally took that girl away and we're like, all right, let's go home. And we went back to the apartment in Queens and crashed and slept for like half a day. And that was it.
Wow. It's so funny you drank at 15 because I didn't drink till I was 21 because we had so many alcoholics in the family. And you ended up without the alcoholism, but I ended up with the alcoholism.
I did not drink again until my sophomore year of college.
Okay.
Yeah. Like I was like, Zima's gross. I'm not going to drink ananymore.
Yeah, that's a reasonable assumption. Yeah.
And then my sophomore year in college, I was like, vodka cranberry is really good. I'm going to drink a lot of this. Yeah. I had a fan. My buddy Than is the reason I started drinking in college because it was sophomore year and we were at a party or whatever. He's like, you gonna have a drink? I was like, no, I don't drink. He's like, why not? I said, well, there are a lot of alcoholics in my family. He's like, yeah, okay. And then he hung out for a bit more. And he comes back. He's like, you're not going to know if you're an alcoholic or not unless you drink. And I was
logical, like, highly logical.
A lot of logic there. And that's when I started drinking. Yeah.
All right. Are you ready to talk about the season finale of Daredevil Born Again?
Yes.
All right. Let's do it. Worst. Daredevil season Born Again. I keep forgetting to say Daredevil Born Again. I keep leaving that out. Season 1, episode 9, Straight to Hell. It's our season finale. So we open with a flashback to Vanessa meeting up with Buster Poindexter at the insane asylum where he's being kept. And
the first joke I thought of watching the episode.
What?
Because it opens with Poindexter looking down the sight of a gun, and then you hear the gunshot, and it cuts to the painting of a deer. And like as the episode was airing,
that's why I thought he was shooting the deer.
He can't even hit the painting of a deer.
Yeah, that's why I thought he was shooting the painting of the deer. But no, that was a flashback to the end of last episode. Yeah. So she has hired him to kill Foggy Nelson, which we knew, but now we have the scene where it actually happens, where she talks him into it. She can get him out because she's powerful and rich. And
they also kind of explain why Kingpin is not in prison and why he's out as well, I guess.
She does. I think it's actually perfect because they don't really explain it, but she says after all of that business with Agent what's his name, and it's okay. That's all I need. Like that's all I need. And that guy was a guy in
the show, right?
In the show, yeah. He ended up getting killed by Bullseye. So that I think was just more than enough. That's good. I don't want the whole, because it's never gonna make sense. You know what I mean? Like there's no version of this that makes sense. But if you can hand wave it with that, then I'm more than okay.
Good to go.
And I'm happy for it. We cut then to the present day. Matt's in the hospital. He is coming to.
One more thing I want to bring up about that sequence.
What's that?
Is she gives him the papers to sign for his pardon. And one thing I really like is that he's got like the brown marker you would give to a kid to draw because he can't have anything that has hard edges.
Yeah.
I was like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
that's a good touch.
Yeah. Matt is waking up. He calls out for Karen. Which does not make Heather Glenn, who has, I think, a new hairstyle now again. I did not know who she was in this scene. She gets really mad about it, and I'm going to tell you the honest to God truth. I never understand this reaction.
Neither do I.
Like, he's waking up from a heavy cocktail of drugs after he was shot in the shoulder. Like, I just feel like he might say weird shit. Like, that's just, like, very plausible. Like, I know that she knows who Karen is.
You see tons of that stuff.
Yeah. So I always, when people get really mad about that, I'm always like, I think you're assigning more agency to this person in this moment than is actually true. Like, he wakes up and he begins to clear up. So my big complaint about this, I have a couple of complaints about this episode, but one of my really big ones is that these 2 episodes were shot all new for the show, right?
Yeah.
So they're not picking up anything that was already done. They end last episode with him getting shot and his heart stopping, and then they pick up and he's like pretty okay.
Yeah, he's all right. He's not doing too bad.
And then he's going to go fight using that arm, which he would just not be able to use. There's just no version of this where he can use it. And then it would make a better fight if he's fighting one-armed. They make a couple of like nods to it, but I kept watching and I was like, he's grabbing this guy's gun while the guy's firing and he's holding it. And it's like, that's going to be like unbearably painful. There's just no way because nothing is healed. He's definitely blown through his stitches. Like he probably can't raise his arm that high. Like just physically it won't go because of the swelling. And that was irritating because they weren't picking up somebody else's work and having to work around it. They made that decision last episode. I liked the decision.
Yeah.
And they did put themselves in a corner. You have the guy shot in the penultimate episode. How do you have him doing anything in the finale? And the answer is let's mostly ignore the fact that he got shot. And then they start right off here. Like he's just like totally okay.
Yeah.
He tells Kirsten, who's also there's Kirsten and Heather, and he tells Kirsten that it was Vanessa who had Foggy killed. And so they're trying to remember what case that was that night that he was talking about. They're trying to figure out, they know that the key to this, why Foggy was killed, is in that case because Foggy knew he was going to win. And clearly Vanessa decided that he could not win for whatever reason. And it definitely did not have anything to do with the Kingpin, it seems like, because they would remember if Fisk was involved in this. So as this is happening, Heather is like kind of not that wild about it.
Heather is a terrible therapist. Let's be very clear on this.
Oh my God, it's crazy.
As they're talking about it, she's like, they're the ones that were being shot at. And she's like the what's her name? Sarah Koenig of therapy. Like she falls in love with everyone she's doing therapy for. There's no reason for her to be like, oh, the Fisks are good people. She's like, she should know from her therapy sessions with him. No, they're creepy and weird. There's something off about them.
And she knows they're criminals because everybody knows they're criminals. Everybody knows they're criminals.
But she's jumping up to defend them, and she had no idea that her other patient was a serial killer. She's not good at this stuff.
No, she's not good at it. I was very frustrated with her in this episode because I think they had written her pretty well before. But this episode, she's just not written well. And it feels like she's not written well to get her out of the way so Karen can come back, as opposed to her actually having these feelings or saying these things. It feels like they're pushing her out so that they can bring Karen back and they don't have to make Matt
not just
be a
pushing
bad
her
guy.
out, having her join Fisk so that next season people can't be like, he should have stayed with her.
Right.
Because now it's like, well, she's a bad guy. So
that's another problem I have with this episode. I just think Heather's just not well written in this episode. She's not written in the style that she was written previously.
Yeah.
And, like last episode when she was mad at Matt, that's all very fucking reasonable. Like it's not crazy. But at this point now, to be this mad at Matt and to be arguing about the Fisks at this point is like just bonkers. Like it just doesn't make any sense in the moment. Like I know she's a human being, right? But like it doesn't make any sense in the moment. And also again, she knows that they're criminals. Like she knows it. This is not a question. He has been indicted on criminal charges. He was seen shooting cops, like all of this stuff, like the fact that she won't even fucking try to even imagine the idea that perhaps Fisk was behind this is crazy to me. Like she can't even entertain the concept.
No.
So Matt's trying to tell her like, hey, listen, these people are really bad. They're using you to get at me. Which he goes, this is going to sound crazy. I'm like, it does, Matt, because you're not explaining it well. That's why it sounds crazy.
That is one problem that I will give to Heather is Matt refuses to explain anything to her and just constantly says, I know this doesn't make sense, but just go do this. And it's
but he was legally involved with the Fisks. So like that, you don't need much more explanation than for him to say, well, because I had legal proceedings with them, they really hate me. And I know things about them that make them really angry at me. You know what I mean? Like that's easy. That's easy to believe. But when he just goes, they're out to get me. Like, it's like, yeah, is that it, buddy? Like, really? Yeah. They're all out to get you, aren't they?
Yeah.
So she does not believe it. Meanwhile, Fisk and Vanessa, I actually have a lot of problems in this episode. This is one of them also, which is that the Fisk and Vanessa have this talk, and then the next scene is him yelling at everybody. And I feel like this should not be in between before that. I think this should be after that.
Yeah, I agree.
Because the change in tone and his attitude is immense.
He should, when he's yelling at everybody in the office, he should still be covered in blood.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing. He's sitting there. He has his new white suit on. He should be covered in blood. That's a much more impactful way to do that.
Yeah.
And also just because he has this moment of quiet with Vanessa that I know that he's like kind of faking because this is his plan to get the vigilante force out there.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it just doesn't read correctly. And I really was like, did they put these two scenes out of order? Like they really felt like they were out of order. But he's talking to her, and it turns out that she's been using the Red Hook port for a while with her art and stuff. And he's like, we were moving millions through, but now I have this new plan that we're going to move billions through. So that's going to be what the thing is. And so the next scene is he's yelling at everybody, and he's like, I want to get fucking this vigilantes. I want every vigilante fucking dead. There's a one point where Gallo's like, or somebody's like, it sounds like it sounds like you're condoning them using violence. And
I'm encouraging it.
I thought that was really great.
That was great. I
like that very much. So he sends his guys out to go kill all the vigilantes that supposedly exist. And he sends Buck to go to the hospital. He needs Buck to fucking take down Matt Murdock.
Before that, he stops Sheila, and he's like, Sheila, you know everybody here.
Right.
Anyone that's not loyal to me, send them home.
Right.
And I really wanted Sheila to be like, all right, see you tomorrow. And just
I really thought she was going to do that, frankly. I honestly did.
All right, I'm going home. But she does not.
She's afraid of him, and that's the thing. I mean, honestly, this episode, this whole season has been ripped from the headlines. This episode really is. People bowing down before Kingpin because they're just afraid of him, not because they believe in him, not because they like what he's doing, but they don't want to get fucked up. Yeah. And that's what we're seeing all across this country, like right now. And it's like really super crazy. So he tells Buck aside, he's like, you got to kill Matt Murdock. And Buck's like, listen, obviously if he died taking a bullet for you, that's pretty cool. But like then him to die in the hospital, it's a whole different thing. And Fist's like, no, this is great. Like nobody has to know. And, you just take him out quietly. And then the story remains that he died sacrificing himself for me. And that's really, really good. So Buck goes off to do that. Now Sheila runs into Gallo in the hallway.
Yeah.
And Gallo is like, I don't know if you know this, but this guy's the kingpin of crime. And
hey, did you watch the original series on Netflix?
Did you ever read newspaper here in the city? So he's like, this guy's the kingpin of crime. We have to stop him. This is New York City. This is not his city state. This is not his fiefdom. So I'm going to go to Albany tomorrow, and I'm going to fucking make the state aware of this. Something has to be done. And because he's out of control. One of the things he does is as they're leaving, he calls in the guy from Con Ed. It's so funny. The guy from Con Ed is sitting outside his office with his little blue Con Ed helmet on his hand. I'm like, why did you bring that into the fucking mayor's mansion? Like, what are you doing?
Because when you're doing a story in New York, construction workers and Con Ed guys always have their helmets with them.
It's so funny.
It is number one, no matter where they are. It could be a scene where it's a black tie gala, and they would still be holding onto their helmets.
It's so fucking funny, man. I died laughing with his little helmet. I was like, I like it. I love it. It has that comic book feeling of who the character is because they drew them in the most broad way.
It's got that. It's something I don't think you see it so much anymore with movies that take place in New York, but in Die Hard with a Vengeance and the Ghostbusters movies and any New York movie in the 80s.
Right.
If there's construction guys, they've got their helmets on. 9 times out of 10, they got the vest on, and they know everything about the city. They know every historical thing about the city.
Well, boss, there is actually an unexplored aqueduct that runs underneath 42nd Street. No, I do love that.
It was built by LaGuardia. It was a way for him to hide all of his prostitutes he would bring into town.
Exactly.
Stuff like that. Yeah,
I do like that. I'm always a big fan of that. So I'm not complaining about that. I was just tickled by it. I was deeply tickled by it. So she's talking to Gallo, and Gallo's like, we got to do something about this. I know I can count on you. And she's like, yeah, sure.
She's like, give me a call.
Yeah, she's really like non-committal. She doesn't want to say anything. And so she, gives him the least that she can. Back at the hospital, Matt realizes that Buck is coming. I don't like this.
Does Buck know that Matt's Daredevil?
Yes.
Does Buck understand who Daredevil is?
Does anybody on the show?
Because his
Including
entire
the people
plan
who make
seems
it?
to be, all right, when the power goes out, I'll walk into the room with the blind guy who can see.
Yeah, but I think he believes that
And
Matt's unconscious.
give him a little stab.
I think he
Give
believes
him a
Matt's
little.
unconscious. The whole blackout timing is, obviously the blackout's going to happen anyway, but the timing of it is that people in the hospital don't see him. And I think he
I
assumes.
thought the idea was he'll inject him, and then the stuff that Matt is hooked up to won't go off because there's no more power. So like there won't be an alert to warn like the nurses or whatever.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, that could be part of it too. But I don't like that Matt like heard him two floors down in the hall in the stairwell. It's just like it's so. I spent some time in hospitals, and let me tell you something. It ain't quiet. And in the comics, one of the things I like about Daredevil, like as a weakness for Daredevil, is that like a lot of sound can be very challenging for him. It can be very challenging to get the one sound that he wants out of it.
Yeah.
And so like
there's a bit in the Netflix series when he first meets Rosario Dawson's character, and he's at her apartment, and there's like a guy that's coming after him, and he's talking to her, and he's like, "Wait, he's here. He's coming up the stairs. He's 3 floors down." And she's like, "You can see him?" And he goes, "No, I can smell his cologne." And it's like, I don't. The cologne does not go 3 floors above him. Like that's not possible.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because this show really vacillates between having Matt have no significant powers to having absolutely impossible powers, just absolutely impossible, and with never having a radar sense. Although actually, he knows that the Punisher shaved, so that obviously must be a radar sense thing.
Yeah,
that's got to be a radar sense thing. But like, yeah, he knows that Buck is coming. He gets up and he leaves his room during the blackout. So Buck goes in and finds that the bed is empty. So Matt goes home. I really like this because Matt travels from wherever the hospital is back to his house with his ass hanging out of his
he just
hospital gown.
walks the streets. I imagine maybe he put on slippers or shoes or something, but he's just his ass blown in the breeze.
Well, what I really like about it is that Punisher calls him out on it.
Yes.
That's actually the best part, because I was thinking that in the back of my head, like, wait, he walked all this way with his ass hanging out, and then the Punisher's like, wait, you walked all this way with your ass hanging out? Like, it's like, I really like when that happens, man. So he shows up, the Punisher is there, he's cut his hair, and he has shaved his beard.
I like that too, that Matt's like, "Oh, you cut your hair and shaved," and Punisher is not like, "Yeah, originally I was not going to return, but they changed some stuff, so I'm back." But I had to shave for a different role. So
Punisher tells him that he got a call saying he needed to take care of Matt, and that Punisher promised to get Matt out of this situation. So I don't entirely understand some of the plotting here, because if the plan is to have Matt Murdock have died as a result of his injuries, what does it make sense to have a bunch of guys with machine guns bust into his house?
I mean, I'm guessing when Buck got there and he's not in the hospital, he called and he's like, he's not here. And they're like, all right, send a crew to his house. That's my guess.
I get it, but that's obviously a kill crew.
Yes.
This is not a catch him and return him to the hospital and then inject him there. Yeah. They are going to kill him. They come in shooting, basically.
Yes.
And I don't understand it. Like, well, how is Fisk going to say, like, oh, this guy who took a bullet from me, turns out he took 11 of them, and he only succumbed to the wounds when he got home? Like, I don't understand.
Well, I'd like to know what, like, I get, the kill crew, I get it, they're just going to follow orders or whatever, but I did want to see the conversation where, like, okay, we're going to Matt Murdock's apartment. There's a possibility the Punisher will be there, I suppose, for some reason. And they're like, what? Wait, isn't Murdock the guy who just took a bullet for Mayor Fisk? And they're like, yes, we have to murder him. Why? I don't know. This is what we're doing.
It's funny because this is the episode that feels most like, to me, they took a bunch of disparate parts and nailed them together. We had a couple of that, but this episode really feels like they just nailed shit together. This
is the episode where we needed, last episode or at the start of this episode, for Fisk to reveal to the world that Matt Murdock is Daredevil.
Yeah.
And then this whole sequence would make more sense.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it sure would. So Frank is like, hey, why did you take a bullet for that guy? And Matt's like, I actually don't really know that. It's kind of hard for me to explain it now. In the moment, it really made a lot of sense. And they know that the cops are coming, so Matt goes to put on his costume, and they break into the apartment, and it is quite clear very quickly that they have fucked up. Yes. Quite badly, because the Punisher begins mowing them down immediately, and then Daredevil begins fighting them. It's a good fight. So I complained earlier about the fact that Daredevil should not be fighting with both hands. There's just no world in which a human being, and he is a human being, physically can do that. But however, it's a good fight, and it's enjoyable, and
has some very bad ADR.
Yes,
where there's a shot where Daredevil is looking right towards the camera, his mouth not moving, and he goes, "Frank, stop." So,
yes. Frank begins what is a big through line for him in this episode, which is anytime he moves, he goes,
throughout this episode, he sounds like fucking, what's his name? Paul Rubens in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Like every movie, he's like, it's
so funny,
dude. Come on,
it's so funny. He makes so much noise. I just don't 100% believe that's how the Punisher would react to all of this. I just don't.
He's pouring coffee. He's like,
I mean, I get it. Believe me, I'm an old man. I know what that's like. But I would assume that the Punisher would maybe be in better shape than I am. So they had this big battle. Frank is just killing everybody. And
he bashes that one dude's face into the counter. I was like, ouch.
Yeah, and there's a guy he just viciously stabs 100 times. Yeah. He is just wilding out on these guys. Matt is like half-heartedly like, hey, don't do that. And they end up with, what's his name? North? Is that his name? Cole North, yeah. He's alive. Frank nails his hand to the wall with a knife. All the other cops are dead. And Matt's like, hey, just don't kill this guy. And then Frank's like, not this guy, but I can kill this guy. And then he just shoots a guy on the floor.
The important thing is that North has a Punisher skull on his chest.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, this is the guy that killed Hector.
Right.
Now, later on, we see like 12 more cops with the Punisher skulls on their chest. So it's like, I guess maybe it was him.
I mean, we're meant to believe that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do like that bit where Frank's like, oh, I can't kill that guy. What about this guy? And then just a bullet in the guy's head.
Yeah, that was great.
Good. So they start questioning North, and North is like, does he actually confess? I think he does, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he confesses, and Frank's like, let's just fucking kill this guy. And Matt's like, no, we need him alive. And then as they're arguing about it, a grenade lands in the fucking apartment. This is like a comedy beat, honestly. Like a grenade lands at their feet and they go, grenade! And then they both run out to the patio.
They don't go grenade. It lands. It goes clunk, clunk, clunk. And Daredevil goes, he looks around and he goes, grenade. And Punisher goes, what? And he goes, grenade. And he grabs him and they jump out the window. So like Daredevil's super senses heard the very clear grenade. Like a grenade hitting the ground, you're going to hear it.
No, I know. The fact that Frank, maybe there was so much shooting that Frank temporarily lost his hearing. But I love the fact they had this big argument about keeping Cole North alive, and then he's immediately exploded. Because that grenade is a big fucking grenade.
It blows up the whole top floor of that building.
It just blows everything up.
I mean, I'm guessing like the gas pipes.
I guess that's the explanation. And also it's just a cool explosion, right? Yeah. But like it was very fun. I was like, wow, that's one grenade, huh? Having just watched Warfare, by the way, where grenades play a part, and they do not do that in the real world. Let me tell you, having watched Warfare. I like when they jump off the roof, that we see Matt really quickly pulling out his baton because he's going to use it to like slow them down. I like that. They don't actually do anything with it, but you just see it happen.
Yeah, no, that's cool.
And that's very, very cool. So they land on top of a car, which I liked. It was a good shot from inside the car. And they are running away when all of a sudden a car pulls up behind them. They're not even running away. They're just like walking down the middle of the street.
They're all beat up. Which again, you know my stance on walking down the middle of the street.
You hate that.
Not a fan. But I do appreciate when you do it in the oh god, what's the name of the movie with Robert De Niro and Charles Grodin, Midnight Run. If you do it that way, where they're just beat to hell, and there's the sense of like they don't even care if they're going to get hit by a car.
Right.
And that's the feeling you get here. Is they're just both like, oh, who cares? Like I'm tired. and they're just doing that. And I'm like, okay, that's an okay time to walk down the middle of the street.
It's Karen in the car, and I'm gonna just say this to get it out of the way. Is that I think that Deborah Ann Woll is not charismatic, and I think that she's just not interesting as an actor. I have always felt this, and as soon as she shows up here, I feel it. Like oh wow, like her and Eldon Henson, I both felt like neither one of them were interesting as screen presences, and like whatever else Heather Glenn's problems are, I think that actress is a interesting screen presence.
Yes, she has good. What's not charisma? Like back and forth with Charlie.
Banter,
not banter. It's chemistry. She has good chemistry.
That's what you're looking for. And I think even Kirsten has a good screen presence. She has very small bits, but I think that she makes an impact in the scenes that she's in. Karen just does not, to me. Deborah Ann Woll never has in this program. She always feels to me like she's been slightly drugged. Yeah. Or maybe she just needs a cup of coffee, maybe is the deal. Anyway, they go get into the car. Matt calls shotgun, which I actually liked a lot.
I like that.
Yeah. And I'm surprised that the grim and gritty Daredevil fans aren't complaining about that MCU type of joke. But that's great. I mean, that's what I want.
The second joke in this episode, right there.
Yeah, there's a couple of jokes. That's what I want.
Maybe third, because the first joke is damn it, Red. Power goes out. You don't have any way to make coffee in your place. And he's like, I don't live in a bunker like you, Frank. I like that.
So they go get in the car, and they end up back in Frank's bunker. Frank is stitching himself up Rambo style while Karen is dealing with Matt. Although I don't know what Karen could possibly do for Matt, because Matt, again, has a giant bullet hole in his chest that he should be hospitalized for days.
Look, man, she's got a napkin and she's patting it down. It's fine.
She's a paralegal and a journalist, so of course she knows how to do this. So they're trying to figure out why Vanessa targeted Foggy, and they're talking about it, and they're like, you know what? I know where Foggy kept all his files, so maybe the files will have it. And they go.
No, not I know where Foggy kept all of his files. Karen goes, they're probably in the storage space, and Matt goes, oh yeah. Like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Matt's like, oh, that storage space I pay for. Yeah.
It's so funny.
I guess I should have thought about that.
Yeah. So they ask Frank to come. Frank says, no, that's not my deal. But if I do see the Kingpin, I'm going to put a bullet in his fat ass.
Yeah.
And then
he calls Daredevil Inspector Gadget.
Yes.
Which I find
makes no sense.
Well, because Daredevil's using gadgets instead of killing people.
I mean, he's using a stick.
But he can throw it out and it comes back to him and stuff like that. He's doing all that stuff.
I guess it doesn't feel like gadgety to me.
No, it doesn't. And also, there's just something for me personally that the Punisher watches Inspector Gadget. It just does not work in my brain.
Well, no, it's because his dead kid's like, Daddy, I want to watch Inspector Gadget.
But his dead kid would be too young for Inspector Gadget, right? It had to be when the Punisher was a kid, because the Punisher is like our age.
He might have watched it as a kid, but also I know that there are kids that definitely watch older cartoons still. They still do it. So, and there was an Inspector Gadget movie a few years ago starring, what's his name?
Matthew Broderick.
So maybe
that sequel with French Stewart.
Maybe they had that VHS.
How come I can remember French Stewart's name? Let's figure that one out.
That's fucked
right
up.
Off the top of my head, French Stewart. Yep,
that
no problem.
Is fucked up. You need to go get an MRI. I think is what's happening here. There's something horrible happening inside your brain, my friend. French Stewart.
I don't know he was in a sequel to Inspector Gadget. How about that?
I'm fucking dying.
I've never seen either of those movies.
As they're leaving, Karen stays behind to have a moment with Frank. And my understanding is that this is all based on the fact that fans began shipping them in the original Netflix show.
I was going to ask if they boned.
No. And my understanding is that fans started shipping them. And so this episode fucking doubles down on it.
Yeah.
In a way that I don't like.
Like you expect like the Sarah McLachlan music to kick in.
Yeah, I just don't like it. And I mean, we can make an argument that psychologically Karen is drawn to broken men, and that's her thing with Matt. You know what I mean? We can make that argument, sure. But like, I think I've decided I don't like this Punisher.
I do not at all.
Yeah, I like Jon Bernthal. That's what's been very difficult for me. I like Jon Bernthal a lot. I think he's a really good actor. I think he's a really good casting choice for that role.
Yes.
Just the way that it's played is just not.
No. I actually have come to disagree. He's not a good casting choice for this role because he's playing it and he plays it badly.
Yeah, but they're writing it that way. They're writing him as very emotional.
They're writing him as very emotional, but I don't think they're writing and he grunts all the time. You know, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, those are his choices.
Those are his choices, but I have the grunting is the grunting.
And then if he did make them tone down the speech to the cops,
I'm certain he did.
He's not the right guy for Punisher.
Yeah, no, I don't.
He doesn't understand the character.
I mean, like physically and stuff. Like, you know.
Yes, he looks great. He looks great as Punisher.
Yeah.
No
so, but like, I just don't like this because I don't like Punisher having this sort of almost romance with her and like having this soft spot where he obviously likes her, you know, because she goes and he's like, stay safe. And it's like,
well, first he's like, Karen, you asked for a favor. I did it. I did that favor, Karen.
He wants a thank you. He has to get his thank you.
Yeah.
He has to get his big thank you. And so, yeah, I just don't, I think that's my problem. One of my problems here is that this is just not a Punisher that I recognize. And I don't mind changing characters for adaptations.
Yeah.
And I also understand they had done so many Punishers that when you come to do this one, you're like, how can we make ours different?
Well, and there is, I think the ultimate problem is Punisher War Journal is the perfect Punisher in live action.
It's absolutely perfect. Yeah. It's totally, that's what a Punisher thing should be. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Like when I think of the Punisher,
yeah.
I think of that bit when he's holding the kid and blows that guy's brains out with a shotgun, and the cop in the room's like, Frank, Jesus Christ. Like, I love that moment so much.
I think a lot about the parkour guy that Frank just blows up with a rocket.
That's great.
I mean, that movie's like a little Garth Ennis-y, like, but I don't mind that. I think that's a pretty good. I think taking Frank really seriously is always embarrassing.
Yes.
So I think that's a really good take. But also that, you know, Ray Stevenson is a great Punisher because he has that.
Yes.
Thing, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, where if you ever see an emotion on the Punisher's face, this should be a huge moment in the story.
Yeah. Yeah.
He should not be running around with tears in his eyes all the time.
Well, this Punisher, and he does it later on in this episode, and I imagine he did this to his son all the time too. Anytime somebody's like disagrees with him, he's like, you don't know my life. You don't know what I've been through. And it's like, dude, relax for a minute.
You don't know what it's like to walk uphill both ways in the snow.
Yeah. You know, like I can imagine this kid being like, oh, I wanted waffles for breakfast. You don't know what it's like to have pancakes in war. And it's like, dude, chill out, man. We get it. We get it. You have PTSD. We fully understand that. Your family was murdered. Terrible, terrible, terrible. If you use that for everything, it gets real tired after a while.
I think it's interesting because Bernthal keeps talking about how he wants to make his Punisher like about PTSD for the guys that actually have it and that reflect their experience. The problem is that real PTSD makes you a little bit too squirrely. And
yeah, there's no way you're running around shooting guns all the time.
But I mean, not just that, but like you're twitchy and you're like emotional. Like that's part of PTSD. The things that the Punisher obviously was created before PTSD was a thing.
Yeah.
But also like conceptually, the idea is he's pushing all of this down. That this exists on a deep level inside of him that he is not engaging with, as opposed to just coming out of him all the time. And in this show, it is coming out of him all the time. And again, I think if you're going to have a moment where Frank is emotional, it's got to be like a holy shit moment. Yeah. Like it can't be like just another fucking scene with the Punisher where he's like either a giant baby or is about to cry. It's kind of a bummer. Meanwhile, Michael Gandolfini. Did you watch that video I sent you of Michael Gandolfini?
I did, with the mustache.
The video is on the press tour for Warfare, and Michael Gandolfini is asking questions of the rest of the cast, and he's this big dumb mustache on, and he's talking to Charles Melton, who plays like one of like the warriors, one of the soldiers in the movie, and he goes, "Charles, I noticed that you're wearing a shirt. Is everything okay?" And that fucking kills everybody else because this is just a guy running around with a shirt on the whole shoot. Like whenever possible, a shirt came off. And it's like that kind of funny is like my favorite kind of like buddy funny. Yeah. Like where you know exactly how to roast your friends. And it's really great.
He has, between the show and that little bit, I was like, I think he's my new favorite actor of all time.
Yeah, he's
Like,
really great. He has a great scene here, which is that he goes to the city council and he's like, "Hey, so Mayor Fisk really cares what the city council thinks, and he's pretty sure the city council is very loyal to him, and they're going to think exactly what he thinks."
yeah,
And he's just there as like an enforcer, and it's like, but he's so charming, and he has like the charm, but also the menace.
yeah,
It's really a good scene. It's a really good scene. And again, it feels like a scene from the modern world. Somebody coming to the Republicans in Congress and saying, "Hey,
yeah.
President Trump just wants to make sure everybody's loyal and
Well,
on the same page."
he's got that great line where he's like, Mayor Fisk is very interested in all of you. He's interested in that 400 million in a
Yes.
Swiss bank account.
Yeah.
And he just keeps going on, and it's like, oh,
Yeah.
guess what? They know some stuff about you guys.
Yeah. It's really good. It's a really, really good scene. And I like it because it does a really nice job of sort of deeply establishing how Fisk has, now that he's flipped into full bad guy mode, how he's going to take control of the city, like that he's now using all of his old tools in this new job. Meanwhile, Karen and Matt are in the storage space. Karen's going through all the files. Matt's just sitting around. I did not like, there's also a line earlier where they talk about the storage space and Matt says, "Would you be my eyes?" And we've discussed this in a previous episode of the show that Matt can read print.
But
With his eyes, with his fingers.
He can, but I imagine going through all those boxes, he needs help going through all the boxes, right?
Well, yeah, but he says, "Can you be my eyes?" That's my problem. And I understand why you write that as shorthand. I understand why for the general audience, that's just a thing. But Matt can 100, unless this stuff is, I guess if it's laser printed, he can't read it. But if it's typed or whatever, he can read it. And so I'm sure a number of these documents are typed. I mean, maybe not. Maybe they're all laser printed. Maybe I'm overreacting to this.
I imagine they're probably laser printed on the time. But also, as we see in the scene, he can read things through his gloves.
Right.
Which is pretty wild because those are thick gloves.
Yeah, I know, but you know what? It's a Spider-Man thing. Like he can stick surfaces through his shoes. Like, okay, sure, why? The actual explanation is he has these little things that come out of his feet, but like they're not big enough to come through a fucking sole. We just accept it. Like, okay, that's the deal. I was okay with that. It
was just funny because in an earlier episode they have him take off his glove to feel the painting,
right?
And then in this he's just like with his gloves on, feeling stuff. And I was like,
Matt's jealous of Frank. And he's like, "You bone that guy? You bone that guy?" And she's like, "Give me a fucking break." And
you queen of the castle? That's what he says.
Is that what he says?
No.
I was going to say that's a pretty crazy line.
That would be a great line, though. Hey, you queen of that castle or what?
The fandom ship name for them is Castle, but with a K. Because it's Karen Castle, yeah. So they find the evidence they're looking for, and it turns out that what Foggy found out was he had a client who got busted with something in Red Hook, and the details are not that important. And the argument that Foggy came up with is that the original charter for Red Hook makes that port a free port, which means it is not under the jurisdiction of the United States or any other entity. It's its own space, and there's no tariff, there's no tax, there's no anything. And they're like, oh my God, they didn't want him revealing this in court before we could use it before the Kingpin could use it to turn the port into his own little sovereign state.
Because Matt says that's where Vanessa's art stuff is.
Right. She's avoiding every import tax and every tariff and all that shit.
Yeah.
She's not paying taxes on the sales because she's doing it at the Freeport. And then they realized that they wanted him dead because if this little loophole was revealed, they may not be able to do their whole plan with the port.
I feel like this loophole that the show makes clear has been around since 1855. Everybody would know about that.
It also is not true. Just in case you were curious,
definitively not true.
I know, but I looked it up. I was like, you know what? Is there?
No, I looked it up as
interesting
well. I looked
thing?
it up as well. Yeah.
And it's just not true. I don't mind that it's not true.
No, that's fine. I mind that every single person would just take people there and murder them and be like, "Can't do nothing to me, cops."
Actually, you can. If you go back,
Three Waters.
No, if you go back to the United States, you can get arrested. So, if you go overseas and commit a crime, and when you come home, you can be arrested.
Then Foggy's entire thing makes no sense. You can't put him on trial because what he did was in a space that's outside of American jurisdiction.
Well, wasn't he smuggling or something, that it wasn't like that big a
he
deal.
stole a truck or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I think the difference is like they prosecute guys for going to Thailand and having sex with children, like here in America. And then they also prosecute you if you committed a murder. I think they're not going to prosecute you for basically a civil offense, more or less. I mean, that's criminal, but it's a low level criminal.
As Matt explains, Kingpin's entire thing is like, oh, I can do gambling and like prostitution and drugs all right here because it's not part of U.S. soil.
But you can do that. Doesn't work. Yes, it does, because we can go to Amsterdam right now and do drugs and go to prostitutes, and when we come home, we're not in trouble because we follow the local law.
But I think if you're living in like Manhattan and running like brothels and gambling things right off the shore, they're going to come for your money.
Let me tell you something. This is also ripped from the headlines because all the billionaires want to build sea cities. They want to build cities at sea where they can do whatever they want. So this is actually a fairly current events kind of a storyline.
At sea is not right on the coast of Manhattan. You know, like
what it is that these sea cities would be pretty close to the shore. They would be just outside in international waters, and that's the premise. They want you to be able to get there easily.
Waters. This would still be American waters. What I'm saying is,
no, it's international space. It's actually non-national space. Anything that's within the concept of a legal drama kind of thing, it makes sense. In the real world, it wouldn't hold up. But within that context, it makes sense.
In a legal drama, I kept waiting for one to be like, it's pretty crazy that nobody in the United States has ever figured out that Red Hook is just free reign.
Yeah, I think the problem with that for me is that I like when there's a story like that where somebody goes through the old ancient documents and discovers the loophole. I like that. But the problem is that New York City is such an intense business city and the real estate's such a big deal in New York. I do not believe that. I can believe that in some small town in France or even some small town here in America. But New York City is just such a fucking intense real estate city that there's no way. There are people who make a living figuring out the loopholes for this shit. Yeah. And there's no way that the Fisks are the first to, or Foggy is the first to notice it. There's just no chance. But whatever, it's the story. I don't think it's that important. I think it's one of those things where it's like, this is the reason for he wants to build it, and this is the reason why Foggy died. I think they don't need to kill Foggy for this, but like it seems very extreme. And they don't bother to get the files, so I don't even know what the whole concept is.
I mean, that's one thing. So they kill Foggy over this, which means obviously Vanessa and Fisk have known about this for a long time. You think one thing they would do is be like, hey, we have to make that charter disappear. Like, we have to have the only copy of it.
Or like, no, they have to burn it. Like, you'd have to burn it, although it probably is digitized.
You want to have a copy of it because if somebody comes and knocking like, hey, what you're doing is legal, hey, look at this charter. So you don't want to burn it.
Yeah,
because that's the only way you can prove that what you're doing is.
But you couldn't get rid of the other copies because I'm sure it's digitized by now. You know, this is the kind of story that really works like a 1960s comic or 70s comic. You know, in the modern world, it becomes more challenging. This is not my biggest problem with this episode. I think it's kind of dumb, but it's actually kind of dumb in a pulp way that I'm like okay with. Like where I'm like, nobody actually thinks this could work, right? Like it's going to work in the story, but nobody is going to go and do an interview and argue. Actually, you could do this. Like I don't. You know, this is not grounded. So when you say the Penguin, this is more grounded than the Penguin. This concept alone degrounds it.
Yes, very much. I mean,
it's straight up made up law. So, you know, so they realize that's what they.
It turns out Red Hook has a finders keepers law.
So they know that Foggy didn't realize what this meant in the big picture. Although Foggy's not stupid, he would be like, "Wow, this means that Red's." Okay, actually, you know what? You're right.
I don't even remember that haircut.
You're right. Matt and Karen go to Red Hook, and this is such a funny scene because it doesn't need to be in the show. Because they get to Red Hook, and Matt's like, "Oh, my shoulder," and then they look and they see 100 guys, and he's like, "I guess I'm going to have to go fight those guys."
Well, that's the very end of the episode.
Oh, is that the very end of the episode? You're right. That is the very end of the episode.
Because that made me laugh hysterically. That they get there, and Karen's like, "I don't think you should do this," and he's like, "Yeah, you're right." And it's like, I wanted one of them to be like, "We have like 10 minutes left in the episode. We're going to have to save this fight for season 2. Like,
so what happens is Frank goes down to Red Hook and he goes and wades into just a bunch of cops and just starts fighting cops. I have seen people discussing this online, and some people believe that Frank's mission was to get captured, but I don't think I believe that.
No, I don't think so.
It does
I
seem
hope not.
it does seem to me like, I mean, the only thing I think that I can be okay, there's two options here. One, Frank wanted to die, that this is
Yeah.
Frank's suicide mission, or two, Frank is way dumber than anybody I've ever imagined. Like, just so much dumber than any
Yeah.
person I've ever thought of. Because this is a guy who uses guns, and like, why would he not just be perched up and snipe them? Like, I mean, like, that's a thing he can and does do. Like, this is
Yeah.
not so outside the character, but he just walks in with a handgun to take on these cops. And like,
I mean, again, if this was Punisher War Journal, not to keep going back to the greatest Punisher movie of all time, but if it was Punisher War Journal, they would show all the cops there, and they'd be like, okay, when Frank Castle comes around the corner, open fire, won't murder the son of a bitch. And then all of a sudden they would just all explode, and they would like
right.
pan up, and you would see him standing there with like throwing mines on the ground or whatever, right? Like that kind of thing. Yeah.
No, 100%. And I just don't understand this premise, like the premise of the scene. I don't understand. Maybe there's somebody listening to this who's going to go on the Discord and say, you dummy, like, this is what's happening here. But it just seems like Frank has no reasonable plan. Like,
No.
he just cannot. He just cannot. And he has a police scanner. He knows what's going on. He knows they're looking for him. Like, this is not like hard to figure out.
I mean, he goes down there to kill the Kingpin.
But he doesn't do it. He doesn't do it well. That's the thing.
He doesn't do it well. No, I agree. But I'm saying like it's not like he was going to the corner store and they tricked him.
Right.
Like, his plan was like, I'm going to go down and kill the Kingpin. He tells Daredevil that I'm going to go shoot him in his fat head. Like, so he comes in, he doesn't even seem to have any guns on him. He's got like a knife. It's like, what are you doing, buddy?
Yeah, I don't. And he just goes in the front door. It's like, not like he's not doing like an actual tactical approach. He just walks right up to these guys, and he walks up a fucking like a little wheelchair ramp that like is long, and like they see him coming from a mile away. Yeah. And at first I was like, oh, this is going to be awesome. He's got like a fucking thing set up, and it's like, no, he's just going to get his ass kicked right now. Like, it's just like, what the fuck just happened here?
He was like, as long as I get to stab one dude in the dick, I'm happy. Because he definitely does that in this fight. He stabs the dude right in the dick.
He sure does. He sure does. So he ends up getting beat up. I don't understand why he's not dead.
When he wakes up and they got him tied up, it made sense. Because I was also like one of them yells out like, non-lethal only. I'm like, why? Just kill the Punisher. And then when he wakes up, they explain like, we want you to lead the task force.
Yeah, but that just does not.
Oh no,
it doesn't make any sense. It makes no sense at all.
It's completely dumb.
It's just
but at least like there's a reason.
Yeah, it's like so dumb though. It just does not make a. And then even after that, jumping ahead, they don't just kill him on that fucking tie to that chair. They then lock him up in a cage. Why would you do that? Why don't you just put a bullet in his fucking head and jump him in the fucking river? You know,
show off his body. No, you show off his body. Be like, look, the most dangerous of all the vigilantes. We already caught him.
We got him. The serial killer. We got this fucking serial killer. He killed 10 cops tonight. Like, and we took him out. It doesn't make any sense. I understand like why he
blew up the home of Matt Murdock where he killed a dozen cops, and then he did this. Yeah,
but I understand why in terms of like a TV show story why they don't kill him. But like, I don't understand in the world of the show why he is not.
It makes absolutely no sense.
But so he gets his ass beat, just like fucking handed to him. Back at the mayor's office, Sheila gives Kingpin a recording of Gallo in the hallway, her talking to Gallo. And he's like, okay, so this guy's fucked up.
And she's all crying.
She's all crying because she feels really bad about it. So he's like, okay, we're going to take care of this. And we cut to Gallo getting driven home. He goes into the car and there's a different driver today than usual. And he's like, what's going on? And then it turns out that they're going to drive him to Red Hook to be confronted by the Kingpin and the entire vigilante squad. And Kingpin, he starts saying like, you would never stop being the Kingpin. You're a piece of shit. And Kingpin punches him right in the throat. And he's like, oh, which is really good. And then
I always appreciate when somebody does that in a movie or
I really like it. Well, I like it especially when they do it to shut somebody up. I like that. That's a very satisfying feeling. A guy that won't shut up and you just like right in his windpipe. And
God knows I've wanted to do that like to everyone that ever talks to me. No.
And then we have, I would say without a doubt, the single most extreme moment in the entire MCU.
The moment that definitively proves the Kingpin is a fan of Mr. Chiswick from Kids in the Hall. That's what this proves.
Your references are amazing, always.
crushing his head.
I know. He does a very intense head crush. Like he rips his head in half, essentially. Like it's really graphic. It's great. I love that kind of stuff. And I don't mind when a bad guy does that kind of stuff. It really looks like you're leaning off camera to suck the dick of an elf. Because it's a little pink thing pops up in the side of the frame. I think that when I put this up side by side, I think that the audience will just see you leaving the frame. They won't see that little pink thing pop up. He's got a pink. Hold it up for the main camera so everybody can see a little pink Stanley all the way up. Show the whole Stanley.
There you go.
You got a pink Stanley.
Yeah. It was $1 cheaper than the black one.
I have made many shopping decisions based on that. The one color I'm not particularly wild about, but I'm like, that's cheaper than another one.
I don't give a shit about pink. Pink's a fine color. I have no problem with it. And it was $1 cheaper for the same thing.
Yeah. So he crushes this guy's head. You know what's really funny is that I don't know what the choice is here, because I think if I was making this show and this happened in the scene, I think I would have all of the cops be like, fuck yeah. But instead, all the cops are like, Jesus Christ. So, I mean, are they setting up the idea that the cops are not going to want to go as far as Kingpin's willing? I don't really know. It's kind of weird to me because
I thought it was going to be that he was going to have the cops beat him to death. That's what I thought was going to happen.
I mean, that's a good choice too, because that means that the cops then are definitely loyal to him because he has.
Well, it's a two-part thing. The cops are loyal to him, and then he can be like, I didn't kill him.
Right. Well, it's that boys thing where Homelander has the new guys beat a guy to death.
Yeah.
To get them implicated in a murder so that they can't turn against him. But I like him crushing the guy's head. I like Kingpin with inexplicable strength. That's like my favorite Kingpin, the one who has the strength of a sumo wrestler. Yeah. I like the Kingpin in the comics when he's 11 feet tall. Like I'm always a big fan of that. I like Kingpin in Through the Spider-Verse. Like I like that giant fucking Kingpin.
Yeah, that big Bill Senzowick style. Yeah,
and so I like the head crush because I'm a gorehound. But he. It's a weird choice to have all the cops be freaked out by it. I don't really fully understand what we're supposed to take away from that 100%. Frank wakes up. He is tied to a chair. Officer Powell is there. And Officer Powell's like...
Do you think the guy that played Officer Powell's partner in the first episode is pissed that he didn't get to come back throughout the entire series? He's like, what the hell?
I mean, maybe, but he did get hired for one episode. He knew, or two. He knew what he was getting into.
Yeah.
And so he says, hey, me and the boys admire you. We'd like you to join the team and be with us. But it makes no sense. I mean, just could not make less sense in any reasonable way.
No.
And then Punisher gives his speech, which is the wrong speech, and it is not the speech that he gives in the comics when he confronts cops who wear Punisher skulls.
The speech in the comics is perfect.
Yeah.
And the speech in the comics has a bit where he discusses, you guys should idolize Captain America.
Exactly. Like, you guys are the law. Like, what I am is awful. I am a bad guy. Yes. I'm doing what I have to do, but I'm a bad guy. You are disrespecting your badge when you want to be like me. Yes. And that's the Punisher I like, because the Punisher knows who he is and has no illusions about it.
Yes.
I don't like when the Punisher has a scene in the comics where he has an argument with Spider-Man or somebody, and he's like, they need me. I'm what's needed. It's like, no, he recognizes that he's a piece of shit. That's part of his self-loathing thing that moves him forward.
Yeah.
Is that he knows he's doing horrible things, but he's compulsive about it. He can't stop, and he believes that he has to do the horrible things to keep the world safe. And that's very often an attitude that sometimes is beaten to soldiers. Like, you have to be the man that steps up and does the thing that's really hard and that will make you feel bad, but it's because you're keeping everybody safe at home. And so that makes a lot of sense. This version, do you know how I see the world? It's a circus and you're all a bunch of clowns. That's more sociopathic than Frank. That's like psychopathic, actually, where he's like, people are clowns. I hate people. That's just not his deal. That's just not his deal. And because in the comic, he has this whole speech about that he's not a good guy and that the cops should only be good guys, that society needs them to be good. And then here he's like, I just fucking hate everybody. You don't know my pain. And I would never serve with you. And it's like, it's just not enough. It has no bite to it. It's just antisocial. He's just like, I hate people. This is like you being asked to join a group. This is the speech you would give. Here we go. Here's the speech. I have it here.
No,
You
it's not.
admire
Because
me, huh?
I would not say to people, "You don't know my pain." I would never say that to anyone, because anytime somebody says that, my first thought is like, "Fuck you!" Like, everyone's got some kind of pain. For you to try and be like, "No, I don't want to hang out with you because you don't know my pain."
Well, here's the speech that he gives.
That's not a reason.
Here's the speech. You admire me, huh? You're out of your fucking minds. You know that? You're a bunch of clowns. You know that? You're fucking clowns. Admire me? You think you know my pain? You think you know my loss? What do you know about me? How I see the world? You know how I see the world? It's just a circus, a bunch of clowns. I ain't gonna serve with you. I won't fucking piss on you if you were on fire. You got that? And that's just not the Kingpin. That's not the Punisher's attitude. It's just not.
No.
Like, it's just not. And it's crazy.
That's something you hear on an episode of Maury Povich.
Yeah, it is.
You know, yeah, you don't know me. You don't know my pain.
It is. It really is. Yeah.
That's not his. I don't have his speech from the comic, but his speech in the comic that he gives to the cops is great. And there's an important part in it where he says to them, like, you should be idolizing Captain America. Yeah. And I thought for sure he would give that speech in this scene.
He could. Now that we're not afraid of the MCU anymore, he 100%.
And I was like, oh, that's going to be great because they can do it just word for word. Right. And instead he's like, you don't know me. You don't know my pain. I'll piss on you. And it's like, what is this? This is garbage.
He's like, are any of you guys into being pissed on? Because I kind of like that. It's hard to meet people who like being pissed on. I'm always wearing this yellow handkerchief in my back pocket, but like nobody's picking up on it.
Yeah. Like his speech is just no good. It just it misses the mark of the character. And if this was his thing, if this was Bernthal's thing of like, oh, I don't want to come back because the way you're writing it, and this was his problem, I don't know that this was the issue. I have no idea. But if it was, he does not get the character. He does not understand what makes this character work.
The original show was building to this. That's all stuff from the original show. So that was building to this. And so I have to believe that that's what his problem was, that he was giving that speech. I mean, that would you tell me Bernthal was on a podcast saying some of the best men I know wear the Punisher skull. It's like, get the fuck out of here. These people are maniacs. Like the people who created the Punisher fucking hate that. Yeah. But what's been happening in the background that we haven't talked about is it's a blackout in New York City, and New York City has two responses to a blackout. Everybody has a party or there's a giant riot. In this story, it's a giant riot, and they're coming for me. This is like the end of Goodfellas.
Yeah.
There's a giant riot, and that's happening like in cutaway shots all along. So Heather and Matt come to Red Hook, and this is the scene where they're like hiding behind rocks, and Matt's like, "Ooh, my shoulder," and she's like, "I guess I got to fight these guys," and she goes, "They're going to kill you. This is a suicide mission." And he goes, "Yeah, I guess you're right." And then he looks at the city, and he's like, "You know what? What we're going to need is we're going to need to get some friends." And we
well, but before that, I do like when Karen is talking to him. There's a moment where it's him, and you can see the city behind him, and then the sound of everyone in the city comes in, and you know it's him hearing everyone crying out and like needing help. And I really like that.
He doesn't help though.
No, instead he's like, "Yeah, you're right. We should go home."
Yeah, he doesn't help though.
He's like, "I have been shot and stabbed and stuff." And
because in a couple of hours the power just comes back. There is a good bit in this where there is a guy looting, and the cop shoots him, and his partner's like, "Jesus, he's just a kid." And then the cop pulls out like a fucking little ski mask and puts it on the kid's face and goes, "No, he's a vigilante."
Just like a
sock,
a beanie. It's just like a beanie. It doesn't have any high holes. He just puts it over a guy's head, and he's like, "He's a masked guy."
Well, you know that the best badass superheroes don't have eye holes. They have, they have masks that you wonder how they can see through.
Baron Zemo, right? He doesn't have any eye holes.
Or Deadpool or Spider-Man.
Well, but they have eye spots where their eye you can tell where their eyes would be. But Zemo's just got like a sleeve over his head.
If he had eyes, he would be that one guy from Fat Albert. From the Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids, he would be that guy. Because that's what that guy, he has Baron Zemo's mask on his head. It's, I think, a lampshade in the cartoon. But
there's an entire episode of News Radio built around that guy, and then arguing. It's Beth wants to sell hats like that, and none of them can agree on which guy that was from Fat Albert. And it's a great episode. It's one of my favorite episodes. I love News Radio, despite the fact that half that cast has gone on to be horrific or dead.
So the power comes back on in the morning, and Wilson, and also, by the way, like, we did not make this clear. Fisk did this. This was a total fake blackout. That Sheila had said earlier that, you can't, the people will not stand for this stuff, this clean streets initiative. And then he's like, well, if there was a really bad terrorist attack or something, they would. This was also very pulled from the headlines because I spent today in fear that the president was going to declare martial law, because today is 100 days from him signing an executive order. Or was it 90 days or something like that? For him signing an executive order to say that by the end of this, whatever time period that today ends, the order had to be dealt with, or he would take the responsibility to mobilize the army. Yeah. And that's obviously an attempt to work his way into the Insurrection Act. Yeah. And I really was waiting if he was going to fucking.
He's got 40 minutes, man. He's got 40 minutes.
He might do it tomorrow. There's no reason he can't do it tomorrow. I mean,
he can do whatever he wants.
But today, I guess, you know what? He's golfing today. He doesn't want to fucking trigger the Insurrection Act while he's golfing. So, but I like, honestly, like, that's part of this episode that is like ripped from the headlines. Like, the blackout's a fake crisis. Yeah. Just like the immigration thing's a fake crisis. It's just like, they're making up stories about people being gang members. They're not gang members. And at least the blackout is like a physical thing that we can all see. Now they're like, this guy's autism awareness tattoo means he's a member of a violent gang. It's horrible, but it's hilarious.
He's a member of a violent gang. We Photoshop tattoos on his fingers.
So when the power comes back on, he speaks to the people of New York and he says, hey, we did it.
First he talks to Heather.
Oh, right. He offers Heather a job. Yeah. She's going to be the head of mental health.
You think Heather would be like, I'm a little busy. My boyfriend's in the hospital and his apartment exploded last night.
She's probably hoping he's dead. She really, by the middle of this episode, she fucking hates Matt. Like she
sure seems to. Yeah.
Does not like Matt anymore. And I think in other episodes that was reasonable. Like Matt was disappearing in the middle of the night. Matt's obviously lying to her. Matt is being weird. Matt's not showing up. Like that stuff is reasonable. But then after he gets shot, it's like, well, you got to extend a little bit of grace to the shot person.
Not just a little bit of grace, but when the guy's being all like weird and paranoid, he's like, there's things going on you don't know about, yada, yada, yada. And then he jumps in front of a gunshot. You'd be like, I guess he knows what he's talking about.
I guess there is something going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Her argument of like, oh, they were shooting at the Fisks. It's like, well, of course criminals try to kill criminals. What are you, out of your mind? Like, have you never seen The Godfather? Like, this is the deal, man. Yeah. That's the life. Anyway, he offers this job as head of mental health, which also feels like an intense Trump thing where somebody like he saw on TV. He's like, that's a good person.
I had 2 sessions with you. You're in charge of it all.
You're in charge of all mental health. So the address he gives is like, hey, we did it. We got through the night. We did it by pulling together. But I'm going to have to impose martial law. And
felt very bad for the cameraman.
Why?
Filming Wilson Fisk give his speech.
Why?
He starts off leaning against the desk.
Yeah.
And the cameraman sets up the shot so his head is the top of the shot. And then he stands up straight. So the cameraman's going to be like, oh, shit. Right? Because they're in the office and it's a tight space. And then he sits down. And the speech is only like 7 lines. So he's doing this stuff quick. It cuts between each shot, but he's doing it very fast.
Oh, you mean like the in-universe cameraman?
The in-universe cameraman.
Okay, I was going to say, they rehearse this stuff.
Yes, no, I'm saying the in-universe cameraman has to be like, what the fuck? What is he? Now he's sitting down? What's going on? We did not set up for this. He was leaning against the desk the whole time.
So martial law is going to have a curfew of 8 p.m. This is unworkable in New York City. I can't even imagine that working. There's just no version of New York City I can imagine that closes down at 8 p.m. I know they tried to do that during the pandemic and stuff, but my understanding is it did not particularly work.
No.
And then he's going to declare all vigilante activity illegal, which it already is, by the way. It is illegal to be a vigilante in New York City today. Today it's against the law to take the law in your own hands.
But to be fair, we do see that from time to time where like lawmakers will pass a law of something that's already illegal.
Just they want to get the headlines. They want to get the attention. Yeah. So then we learn he takes he goes down. We go down to his little lair in Red Hook, and we see they've got all these people in cages.
Before that, he ends his speech, and he's like, "I love this city," and then it holds on him for like 5 seconds, giving the kindergartner smile. Which is the smile that a kid gives when they still haven't figured out how to fake a smile, but they've been asked to smile. So he's just like, And it just holds on that. It just made me laugh so hard.
Yeah, it's a very awkward speech.
It's a very awkward speech.
I mean, that's obviously a choice. It's a very awkward speech. We learned that there's a dungeon now in the Red Hook dungeon,
Where
and
they
people,
had, what was his name? Adam,
and there's all these people in cages, and it's obviously like the husband of Dana from the pit. We see Jack Duquesne is in a cage. Yeah. He gets his name in the opening credits.
Did he? I didn't notice
that. He gets his name in the opening credits. Yeah. And then we see that Frank Castle is in one of the cages. And then we go to Matt. Matt's at Josie's bar, and he's giving like a speech that's like a voiceover. And he is like...
First he talks to Karen.
Yeah.
And he says he doesn't know who he is since Foggy died. And Karen's like, "Are you kidding? It was Foggy. Like, who gives a shit?
Who gives a shit about that guy? Fuck him." So he then gives this whole thing where he's like, we're going to need an army. And he gives this speech, and it's like a voiceover where he's talking about, like, we got to rebuild and defend, depose, whatever. He gives his Luigi speech.
Weak, they're strong, and we see the Hector's niece.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it cuts to a couple different people. However, none of them are here in the room. When he says we need an army, and then we cut to him walking into the room, it is Cherry, it is Agent Kim, it's Josie the bartender, and it's a couple of random cops. Yeah. And like, I
really wanted to turn to Karen and be like, "Fuck, we couldn't even get Danny Rand for this? Are you serious?"
Like, that's the thing. I'm not one of those. There's people online who are constant like, "Where was Spider-Man during all this?" And I'm like, he was Sony, doesn't allow him to be used. So just fucking assume he's doing something else, Like, that's how it is in the comics. Sometimes the character's not available from the editorial team of their department.
Also, they have no way to contact Spider-Man.
Well, I mean, there is a giant blackout and martial
law. I fully believe Spider-Man's out there doing stuff, but Daredevil doesn't know how to give Spider-Man a call. He knows how to call Jessica and Luke and Danny.
But the thing is that if we're going to try to logic into it, the problem is that in the comics that never makes a difference. They just know where the other guy patrols, and they just go sit around.
They usually cross between each other in some way in the comics. But I don't mind in this if they have not crossed paths.
But yeah, I mean, I'm not even looking forward to those characters returning. But the fact that the show ends on a note of him walking into a room to a bunch of nobodies, straight nobodies, and being like, "Oh, that really? Like, this is the best that we can do." Like, can't you?
What is the detective doing there?
Well, they've been establishing her as likable, so that's
they've been establishing her as likable. They have not established her as having any connections to Cherry or to Matt.
No, not one bit. And then again, I think it's hilarious that their army includes a bartender. There's just like an old lady bartender, no less. That's just crazy. Like, imagine she's the most savage one.
Dude, she might well be.
She can have 2 samurai sword.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not the guy sitting here like, oh, he's got to have endless crossovers. But if your big fucking speech in a story about Kingpin taking over New York and outlawing all vigilantes is that we need an army, and there's no vigilantes in your army, it's just stupid.
Yeah.
Like, it's just dumb. It's just really anticlimactic, frankly.
Yeah.
Like, again, like, there needs to be a couple of characters, even if they're guys that have never appeared before. There's enough fucking rando vigilante characters in the Marvel universe that they could just yank in and put a fucking costume on a guy.
Thrasher. Hey, it's Night Thrasher.
Yeah, there's a million different guys. And like, it's, maybe Night Thrasher they want to hold on to, they might want to do something with them. That's fine. But there's so many other guys that they could fucking pull in. So it was very disappointing. That's the finale. That's how it's resist, rebel, rebuild, because we are the city without fear. And that's the end of season 1. What do you think of this?
The mid-credit
there's a post-credit scene. That's right. There's a mid-credit scene where the single dumbest cop who's ever lived. I mean, just the dumbest guy. Like, if I thought Frank was dumb for walking into that pile of cops, this guy, I don't know how he ties his shoe. I'm imagining that Dr. Mel from the pit is in a rush to get home to this guy, like to pick him up, because it's crazy.
I think they actually explain why he acts the way he does.
What is that?
He's from Jersey.
That's some harsh. That's real New York City shit. Fucking dragging Jersey.
By the way, Frank says he's from Jersey as well. Frank Castle's not from New Jersey.
Well, he's just bullshitting this guy the whole time. So
I hope in season 2 he makes it very clear to everyone, I'm not from New Jersey.
But yeah, he convinces this cop to come over and shake his hand. I mean, it is so. I literally even if it's your first day on the job, I can't imagine you're going to fall for the old "Can I shake your hand?" bit.
The guy's in a cage, chained up, and
He's
you're like,
manacled in a cage,
whatever.
And he's the Punisher, who everybody in the city knows is a prolific serial killer. Like, it's not even. That he killed a fucking dozen cops last night. Like, it's not even a question. Like, and he's like, "Oh, sure, I'd love to shake your hand, bro." It wouldn't be funny if actually Frank did just stink bomb him.
That would be pretty. That's how it ended.
Frank stink bomb.
He was like, "Oh, gross, dude."
But he breaks the cop's arm, and then he takes his key, and so that's how Frank gets out of the cage. Sort of like raises the question of why bother putting him in a cage at all if you're going to get him out the next scene that he's in. I don't really understand why that would be the case. And it feels like because they wrote him into a situation they couldn't write him out of, and then they needed to end on a better note than Daredevil with an army led by a bartender. And so they were like, well, Frank breaks a guy's arm. We all love that. And so they're like, yeah, sure, let's have him break the arm. All right. What did you think of this one?
I did not like it.
Yeah.
I did not like it. I thought this was a very weak season finale. It had a couple of good moments, but like the story, it felt like I was talking to Shane about this when we went to see Sinners, and this is what Shane said. I don't want to steal his thing. He said it feels like something where they thought the next episode would be on the week after.
This feels much more like a penultimate episode than last week did.
Well, just that the original plan was for this to be single season, 18 episodes. The first season was going to be 18
Once
episodes.
they came back and reshot that was already out the window. They knew they were shooting the season finale.
Okay.
They knew it was a season finale.
I agree with him that it feels like something where it was like, we'll just split the season in half.
This episode is very weak in a lot of ways, and it's a weakness that I probably could have forgiven if it did have another episode after it. I could have dealt with it, but as a finale to the season, it leaves a bad taste in my mouth. I think it's just not well structured. The plot is often bizarre, and people make choices for no good reason whatsoever. I feel like people making right turns away from who they were previously, and I feel like it just rushes through a bunch of stuff. Like it just rushes through a bunch of shit that maybe either should have begun last episode or should be held for the next season or something. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, they pull a fucking Monty Python sketch in this where, Matt and Karen go to the docks and they're like, let's not go there.
That's right out of
Camelot. It's a silly place. Yeah, it's a silly place anyway. Like, that's what it feels like. They get there and then finally they're like, it's late, man. I gotta get to bed. Like, why
aren't you going to help people? Nah, I got to go to sleep, man. I got a bullet in my chest. Yeah.
I just remembered I got shot. Like, why have them even go there?
Yeah, no, it's total padding. I mean, it's crazy because the episode's really too fast, and it's also got padding. So again, like the idea that they capture the Punisher and then the next scene he's out, he's escaping. Like that's stupid. Like this is like leave us on the cliffhanger of the Punisher's in the cage. That's totally acceptable to me.
The first scene of season 2 could be him breaking out, and it would be fine.
You're right. I don't mind that, but you got to put that little gap. It cannot literally be after the first half of the credits. Because in a movie you can do that. Because you know that the next sequel is going to be it's going to come out 2 years later, and it's going to probably be set 2 years later mostly. Yeah. And so he'll have to already be out, and then you can explain that's a way to set that up.
Sure.
I'm okay with that. But here it doesn't make any sense. The fact that, as you mentioned, Matt does not know that there's a fucking storage space, or he does know and he doesn't think about it. That's weird. There's just so much in this, and I had really enjoyed the whole previous season, and I like last episode too. So I'm not just turning my back because they've now come to the fully original material. I just think this was not, again, why have Matt get shot last week if that's not going to be an actual thing in this episode? It's not a thing.
No.
He grunts every now and again, he grimaces every now and again, but he's having full on fights with the arm that he should not be able to use. Physically should not be able to use.
He should have it in a sling at least. If not, he should be I would think it went through some bone.
It might not have. It might have just passed right through.
like right here, right?
Yeah,
Isn't
there's a
there
lot of
something?
spaces to get in
I guess I
between.
don't
I
know.
mean,
I don't know. What do I
I
know
don't
about
mind that. I don't need. I don't need that. I just need the recognition that like, you're getting shot like that means that your muscles are all going to swell up and that arm is going to be unusable, like for at least 24 hours. Longer than that, but at least 24 hours. And if he has to use it, it's got to be one of those stories where the using it is in and of itself a heroic act. That it's
Yeah,
like he only uses it like one time and it's to like save Frank's life or something like that. And he's obviously in agony while he's doing it. But
yeah.
they just like wave it off. They're like, oh yeah, he can just grab guns
He's
at that point.
fine. He's
So
Daredevil.
he'll be
You
fine.
know.
He'll be okay.
Let me
But
ask you this,
yeah.
and this is not just this show.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of movies and shows do this. Frank, at one point, when they go back to Frank's place, he's got like a pill bottle,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know what the pills are. I don't know if it's like pain meds or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But he pops a couple in his mouth and he chews them. My understanding with pills is if you chew them, they are less effective.
I don't think that's the case.
I believe that's why you're supposed to swallow them.
I mean, there's a lot. He might be just chewing aspirin.
Yeah, but
That's
it's in
very
like
possible.
a medical thing.
Yeah,
Like
I
totally
don't think that
differently.
chewing is going to be that different. That's like a tough guy thing, and I can
No, it's
actually
a
see
tough
him
guy
doing a tough guy
thing.
thing.
And but my understanding is you're supposed to swallow
Well, where do you have
pills
that understanding
before.
from?
I don't remember where I'd read it. They
I
become
mean, yeah,
less
that's the
effective.
thing is that like we have to be careful about being the guys on the internet who are like, well, I believe that you couldn't do that. When I was a kid, we went to go see Starman, the John Carpenter movie, and I got really mad because I was convinced that you could not drink and smoke at the same time because your lungs would catch fire.
Okay, well, there you go.
So we may not always be. I'm sure it probably does. It's probably not recommended, and it also tastes disgusting.
Actually, the reason you're not supposed to chew is it creates a dose dumping in which your body can absorb too much at once
There
and
we
you'll
go.
overdose.
It's too effective.
It's too effective. So then it's definitely a tough guy thing.
It's a tough guy thing, yeah. It was
Yeah,
also a premise is like he's in a lot of pain. He can't wait for it to fucking
yeah,
absorb.
yeah.
But yeah, I just didn't like this finale. I didn't like how it ended. I'm like kind of bummed.
Yeah, I did not like this episode. I did not like it.
And we liked the whole show. We have been pro this show since episode 2, I think, right?
Yes.
I mean, like
Yep.
very pro this show. I think more.
I think I was more on board for episode 1 than you were.
Yeah, I think so.
Remember.
I think so. I think I was really. It just looked like shit to me.
Yeah.
That was my big problem with episode
Which it
1.
did not look good. It did not. Episode 1 did not look good. But yeah, this just did not. There are just too many moments in this episode where it's like, why is this happening? Like you said, with like Punisher walking up to the cops, like, what is this? Why would he do that? Why would he just walk up to them? It doesn't make any sense,
Right?
You know, like you're much cooler with the Red Hook 1855 charter. I'm not. I think that's amazingly dumb.
Yeah, no, it is, but I can just roll with that kind of bullshit. That's the kind of thing that they used to write in comic books when nobody bothered researching anything.
Yeah.
They would have like.
No, but I mean that's the thing is like when that happened, I was like, this is an episode of the '60s Batman show where like Joker's like, by the way, Batman, these 3 blocks are not actually part of Gotham, and now they're Jokerville, and he'd be like, damn it, he's right, Robin. We have to follow what the law says. Like. That's what would happen.
God, that is so funny. All right. Well, that was our run on Daredevil Born Again. We'll be back with that next year. In the meantime, until we see you guys again next week, may you be happy, may you be healthy, may you be safe, may you be well, but most of all, may you remain a true believer.
Yeah.